Call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, April 21st, 2011 at 7 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen's meeting room. If everyone could please join me to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have an announcement that I'd like to share that came through the Nixle update, which is what the Uxbridge Police Department uses. That effective May 2nd, 2001, River Road will be detoured for bridge repair. So from River Road to Balm of Life Spring Road to the Millville Town Line will be closed to through traffic for bridge repair. Please plan accordingly. The detour will be on 146A to Central Street, Millville, or Route 122 to Central Street, Millville. The repair should last through the summer. If anyone has any questions, they can contact Chief Freitas at 508-278-7755. Another announcement that I'd like to make also is that the board, back in 2009, January 12th, 2009, had adopted a policy of the municipal facilities / meeting rooms use policy. And this applies to all boards and committees. I'd like to call everyone their attention to number 2, which is on the second page. Meetings must end by 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday and by 4 p.m. on Friday, with the exception of Town Hall. What I would like to start instituting as of this evening is that we're done at 10 o'clock. And we're out of here. And if we haven't finished our agenda, that then our meeting is going to be continued to Tuesday. Okay?
That's not gonna work
A
for this
policy
evening.
is a nice thing to have. The problem with a policy is people don't clearly think through the implications of what they put down. I'd like to be out of here at 10 o'clock. I'd like to be out of here at 9 o'clock.
Okay?
However, the reality is that we routinely go over that. So if I had a choice of staying until 11 or coming back the next night, I would opt to stay until 11. And for us to impose this on other boards and committees in town seems rather ill-advised.
I'm adopting this for us specifically. It does refer to town committees and other organizations, but I'm adopting this for us to utilize. I would like to be out at 10 o'clock, so if we can get things moving. Point well taken, Peter. I appreciate
Well,
that.
I agree with you. I like to get out at 10 o'clock. However, I go back to the same thing. If we can see our way to being able to finish by 10:30, I would rather do that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So
I agree.
again, a policy is nice, but if it just adds more friction in the proceedings, which what you suggest would do, and what this does, serves no purpose.
Well, if we are at 10 o'clock and foresee that it'd be in half an hour for us to finish, then I certainly would agree with that. But if we are, only a quarter of the way through the agenda, which I hope we're not, then we'll have to carry over until Tuesday night. So I'd just like us to be able to move forward and move quickly through our agenda and keep our questions and concerns as succinct as possible, not limiting anyone's need for additional information, but just keep us
The
going.
second part of the policy I also disagree with, because an automatic rollover to the next day is ill-advised, because we may have other things scheduled. So just think through the implications of what you propose.
I did. I want us to keep going. I want us to move forward. I want us to move forward and in an intelligent and in a very succinct way. One of the things that you have commented on is that we don't necessarily follow our own policies, our own processes. So this is one that I would like us to see that we can adhere to. And part of this dialogue, while it is important, I also feel that, going forward, this is what the goal I am setting for the board to be able to achieve.
I think it's unrealistic and ill-advised.
Okay, so
But that's
noted.
only my opinion.
So noted.
And I'd just like to note also that we're not violating number 2, because it says meetings must end by 10 PM, Monday through Thursday, and 4 on, with the exception of town hall. So therefore, meetings in town hall do not have to end at 10 PM Monday through Thursday. So we're actually not in violation of our policy if our meetings do occur after 10 PM on a Monday evening.
Well, it's a matter,
Secondly, I'd question whether or not we would have an issue with open meeting law because we're not posted for a meeting for the next day. And what are the implications of that?
There aren't any.
There aren't any.
Because
It's
if we have a
continuation.
meeting, we're free to postpone it.
Right.
And we announce it at our meeting.
Okay.
We don't have to wait the
so I
20
don't have a
hours.
problem with that. Are there any other announcements from board members? Anyone? No? Okay, citizens forum. Is anyone here for citizens forum? No, all right, moving right along. Great. All right, so I will open the public hearing for the new application, Class 2 license, Richard Dowden, 545 Quaker Highway. Now, I know that he had expressed to me that he may not be able to attend, which I don't see him in attendance here as well. Is there anyone that wanted to speak against it or for it? No? Okay. All right. With that in mind, I'd entertain a motion that the board approve the Class 2 license to sell used cars for Richard Dowden at 545 Quaker Highway.
Well, we're issuing a Class 2 license. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, or good discussion?
Sorry, did I miss, did we close the public hearing?
Oh, close the public hearing, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all right. And moving on to our meeting minutes, we have received, let's review 4/11 meeting minutes. that Tracy had sent out to us for comment.
Is that the one we just given?
That was your hard copy, yep.
Oh, okay.
It was emailed earlier.
You had emailed it to us
Yep.
earlier today.
On 3 old business, E. The way that it's written, Ms. Robertson advised that for the record, the memorandum of agreement should be attached to the deeds. The way that that's written, it sounds like it will be attached. The comment was, is for the record, that was the reason for my abstention, because that was the intent that it be attached, just to be noted that it's not going to be attached. Do you understand?
Yes.
Any other changes or modifications?
Just a comment, it says, Town Manager, Section 6. The Town Manager discussed the firewood bid auction and advised he has interviewed for a building inspector. This was after the auction, right? The 11th? Wasn't the auction the 6th?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so I'm thinking of people reading this 6 months from now, and it doesn't tell us anything. If it said that the auction was held, there were 7 bids ranging in price from X to Y, and the highest bidder was X dollars submitted by Mr. Jones, or whatever it was. Because as it is, it doesn't tell us anything.
Right.
So leave it out, or put down something that,
I'll probably leave
Or
it out,
attach.
Peter,
Yeah.
because at that point in time, there was no dates determined or anything going forward, I think, for that.
No,
this was after the auction.
it had already occurred. He told us
I
that there
think.
was a winning bid.
I think there was-
Wasn't there?
Yeah, there was on the,
There was, that's what we were
The
informed
11th.
of, that there was a,
The auction was the 6th, if I remember right.
and that we were informed that, what, it was a $550?
It was a
$50.
These minutes are 4/11, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just thinking
It
in
was
terms of someone
5/6, so
reading
we
the
didn't know at
minutes
that point.
Historically,
after, it tells them nothing, so.
I'm sorry, on 4/11, we knew what happened on 4/6.
Okay, I get you, 4/6, all right, we can fix that. Oh, I don't have my notebook, okay.
Also, I guess on that, I mean, you're gonna be doing it, now it's gonna become 2 separate paragraphs. Just the way that it reads, it looks like that was one consecutive statement instead of 2
it should be
distinct.
2 distinct issues, right? Any other comments or revisions?
Under D, I'd
Newer
like to
old
bring to
business?
the, I'm sorry, old business D. It was the consensus of the board that the staff compiled the information. However, there was no, I don't recall any discussion that we seek a legal opinion from the IG's office. That wasn't discussed during our meeting.
Would that be AG anyway?
No, it
No,
was
it's
the
Inspector
IG.
It was the expender.
But that was
Inspector
not
General.
discussed during our meeting.
Of our recommendation that they seek legal
I
opinion?
think I remember David saying he would.
I said,
Yeah,
right,
David
Right.
said-
and Jay
Which he
echoed that.
did,
Right.
you know.
And
But-
commented it being free
Well,
counsel,
it was
right?
to, it wasn't specifically with the IG that you were gonna seek information. We were going to look into,
We were going to check between, we were going to get a legal opinion from the state. We were gonna talk to the state because we weren't
okay, then-
going to incur
Then we should specifically
council
state that, but
charges. I don't remember if we actually said the IG or not.
we didn't say the IG, so I
That
think
I
I
don't
that,
remember
don't
it
know.
specifically that it was.
I
still
don't
Yeah,
remember
it
anything
wasn't
about
that
town
specific.
council either, because the transaction is a very simple, straightforward, run-of-the-mill transaction. And it's something that there shouldn't be really any legal question about. The only thing that I was looking for, and this goes back to every time we discuss this, I want something definitive from the Conservation Commission in writing if they feel that the use of that conservation land for baseball fields is consistent with the uses for which conservation land can be put. Because the state statute talks about passive recreation. Now, I'm not sure, because this land hasn't been, there's no deed restriction on the land. The town meeting just gave it over to the Conservation Commission for control. I'm not sure that has a legal standing or not. But I want to know from the Conservation Commission if they're amenable to the disposition of the gravel in return for money and the use of the land for baseball field purposes, being consistent with what they think their responsibility is. And this is, I think, the 4th or 5th time that I've asked for that, and we don't have anything.
also, I think the minutes should reflect that we were specifically requested by the individual putting the matter forward to contact legal counsel, and it was the consensus of the board that we were not gonna contact our own legal counsel on this at this point.
No, correct, we're not gonna,
So I think
we're not
we
going
should
to
reflect that
contact.
we were not going to spend town funds in the minutes.
You got all that, Tracy?
Yeah,
Got all that?
got it.
Any other comments or changes to the minutes for 4/11?
Motion to accept the meeting minutes of Monday, April 11th, 2011 as written, I'm sorry, as amended.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the executive session meeting minutes for April 11th as well, given as a handout.
Since the, yeah, I find nothing wrong with the minutes, but we haven't concluded those negotiations yet, so I would suggest that we put off.
Postpone
the minutes, yeah.
approving them until, okay. Does the board agree? Okay. And then we have in our packet the site visit meeting minutes from Thursday, April 14th.
Just to know, when we do that, though, there's just one thing I think we need to clarify on that, when we do it.
Okay.
Ooh,
I
excuse
wasn't
me.
there. I wasn't there.
It says that you're absent.
Okay,
You're up there.
okay, I see
Um,
that absence.
So entertain a motion to accept the minutes for April 14th, 2011.
To amend slightly, do we want to note that there were a couple of residents who actually showed up at that site visit? Does the board feel it's necessary just to note that they're, not name them
Can if you want.
specifically?
I think you could, actually, and Chief Freitas as well.
Yes, and Chief Freitas was also,
Chief Freitas should be included as an.
and we had
attendee.
citizen participation also.
Mhm.
So moved as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You would
You
abstain.
abstain, you weren't
Oh,
there.
jeez.
Someone else
I
want to
can't
second it?
second it either.
I'll second it.
Peter, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Abstaining. Okay,
Abstain.
great. And 419, meeting minutes, Tuesday.
Wasn't there.
This one, actually, we can't,
You can't
we can't
actually
take any
do-
action on it because
That's right.
You don't
Jay
have
is
a
missing, so
quorum.
we'll have to bring that one back as well. So we don't have a quorum for that one. All right. All right, Bruce, old business, new high school project, SBC meeting update.
Oh, there it is, right there. I gave you, I made a handout of what went on at the last meeting. I told you at the last meeting that BFS Business Printing was gonna be $8,000. Well, they've changed that since then to $10,000. And I wanted to give you that change, because they changed it, when I went back, they took the 8,000 and changed it to 10,000.
Is that going to require a change order, or is that still
No,
within there?
No, we just voted it.
Still in the budget.
It's already in the budget anyway, up to
What was the reason
70,000.
for the change?
They're gonna have more bids, more bidding, the printing to do,
Okay.
bid print, bring. Okay,
Related to specifically,
well, we had one, last week, was it Thursday? Oh,
It was
Wednesday,
the-
Wednesday.
oh, to
Wednesday.
Yeah.
the new installation thing.
Waterproofing.
The
Thank you,
waterproofing.
waterproofing.
Mhm.
Do we charge for the bidding documents?
I'm not sure.
I don't believe we
Don't
do.
know. Huh?
I don't believe we do.
No? Any reason why not?
It's kind of late now, isn't it?
We should get charged for everything.
I don't know.
Because, the package is rather extensive, and if you charge something, you get serious bidders instead of people just, throw in a bid.
And just to go over,
Well, we do pre-qualify, so we get serious bidders.
Yeah, but I'm looking for the money, too.
the invoice fees for Charlotte for this period. The CM fee was $9,144.70. The Division I General Conditions was $51,456.75. Division III Concrete was $57,665. Division V Structured Steel was $123,712.22. And Division 31 Earthwork was $500,417.25. which came to a total of $742,395.92. And for Raymond Designs, we had a invoice for construction contract administration for $53,700. We had for A&E Geotech, $3,862. Geotech BSC is $3,987.50. Wetlands BSC is $4,180. Wetlands BNC again, BSC again, is $7,700. And Wetlands BSC again is $10,082, with a total of $83,512.45.
A lot of hay bales, huh?
Yeah, not kidding. And as before, as what I said, the bid printing for a BFS, instead of going through the whole range of what it cost, I'll just give it a total for the bid printing at this particular time, $5,020.09. And also, we have, from what I understand, I've just heard it tonight, we have a sign that was put up at the site, and this is what the sign is supposed to look like. I gave you all a copy. You can't, I got it in color if you want to see it in color. You can read it easier, but.
No, I don't care.
Oh, okay. But that was about it after the
How much
sign.
did the sign cost?
They haven't gone over that yet. I hopefully, we're gonna pay for it in the end, but hopefully, it won't cost us anything, but I doubt that. But that's about it.
Thank you. Old business, letter B, discuss action Davis Heights BOS to sponsor eminent domain and waive street acceptance filing fees. Good evening, Mr. Gresham.
Thought for a change we'd come with some positive news this evening. It looks like the property owners up in Glen Street have come to an agreement with their bank. And I, before the meeting started, handed out the letter from their attorney to all of you. It looks like they'll be reinstated by the end of this week, which will open the door for us to go to their bank and get the release that we need to finish the project. With that, I'd like to ask that the board go ahead and recommend full road acceptance for Glen and Lee Street at the town meeting in May, knowing that we'll need a small amount of time after that meeting to get this release finished, but we do anticipate within 30 days of the 29th, when they're going to be reinstated, 30 to 45 days, that we should be able to get that release and finish all the paperwork at that time.
We'll probably have it done before the town meeting. Possibility.
Anything's possible.
I didn't think this was possible.
Yeah, me neither.
That's great news, though.
But, yeah, we're encouraged, and obviously, given how quick we've been able to go through the other, I think it's 10 releases, we see no issue getting this done in a quick time frame.
Okay.
So if that's the recommendation of the board, then they fall within the 120 days after town meeting.
Mhm.
Do you understand that? That if it's
do.
not recorded within that 120, then it falls off the table?
Yes.
Great.
That's great news.
So at this point, the board will take no further action until we vote on the article
Is that,
to lay out the street, correct? Or no?
And just address the fees.
Oh, and address the
there's a
fees,
fee
correct.
motion.
Okay. So is the request still that you're asking for, that the board also waive the filing fees at this point?
I'd like to ask for it.
Okay.
Can always ask.
Can always ask. We could use a little helping hand.
What's the situation of the fees with this road? Have they paid any fees?
No fees have been submitted to the office. Bear in mind, we do have the cost for the plans and deeds and so forth at the Registry of Deeds. So that is a cost associated, or with the, for the town, as well as a final review by town council.
Okay,
which is
so,
another
And those
cost
are-
that
and
is
that's
incurred.
what the $500
That's what the
covers, is
$500
those
covers,
costs that are
correct.
associated with both those.
Mhm.
And so therefore, that's why each time a road comes before us, that they have to go back through that process each time?
Yeah,
Okay, strike that, we'll get to
Okay.
that next one.
you can- yeah, okay, different situation, but
Okay, so none of that's been done on this road?
correct.
Correct.
Well, the fee is to cover actual costs incurred by
Yes.
the town,
Right.
so
Correct.
it's hard to make a case that we should do that. I mean, I know you'd like to have it, but,
Hey, can't blame a boy for trying.
okay.
I very much appreciate all the work that you've done on this. I'd like to commend you. It's been, impressive what you've done to get everything accepted for your street, the work that you've done to stay on top of this.
I appreciate that.
I think you've done a really good job,
Yeah.
you know.
It's been an interesting road.
You've gone out of your way.
Yeah.
Above and beyond,
You know,
definitely.
there's
It's
there's
in everybody's, I started the whole process off at the first meeting saying that, we wanted to be your partners, and it's in everybody's interest. And it is in everybody's interest to see this get
That's
finished.
Mhm.
So that was the goal, and we're there.
And I want to see these two streets accepted myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So just only because I don't completely have the process understood, is it put to motion by the board for the recommendation at the meeting, or how does it work?
For which aspect?
Well, right now,
For
the board-
for the road acceptance?
Okay.
when the
Yeah.
board goes through the warrant, they'll recommend the
Tonight.
action, favorable, unfavorable, action
Tonight
with
we'll
regard
vote
to the
on the
article.
warrant.
It's an article that we're gonna be going through tonight in the warrant, where we'll make a
So
recommendation
basically stick around and
of it.
sit.
Oh, you can.
Thanks.
However, that doesn't include the fees.
Correct, this is a separate
So
issue.
we do need to make a decision
On the fees right now.
on the fees,
Motion
Only if we're going to
if we want to.
waive them.
Correct,
So
Right.
somebody would have to make a motion to waive them.
correct,
Absent that, the fee applies.
right.
He specifically sent a letter to the selectmen, which was in a prior packet, and I think I copied it in this packet to waive it, so you might want to just to,
Make a
Well, the same
motion.
thing applies.
yeah,
You would have to make a motion
Mhm.
to waive the fees.
yes,
Or not to waive the fees.
yeah.
Right, and I think what Tracy is saying is because the request was made in writing, that we make a motion. Either way,
You can.
Okay,
correct?
right, correct.
Mhm.
I make a motion not to waive the fees for the Davis Heights subdivision, which will appear on the annual town meeting warrant for 2011,
Do we have a
for street
second?
acceptance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For $500, you're getting a Harvard education.
Just to speed this along, can I make a motion that we take out of order the article on the annual town meeting relating to these streets?
As we get to the specific articles for these, sure.
New business, item C,
New item C, yeah, discuss action vote to lay out and make public way, Giacomo Way and Anthony's Way, Lee Street and Glen Street, Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive.
They're all on one?
No,
we're gonna
Looking
start
at
with
13.
18,
Yeah.
Article 18.
So Article 18, street acceptance, Glen Street and Lee Street.
Where's the, what is it?
Oh, it's separate, Carrie. You have the warrant, it's a separate
An extra button.
packet. Right there.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
So it's on page 13.
Article 18, street acceptance, Glen Street and Lee Street. Motion to recommend favorable action.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You're all set.
They're gonna do that after. We're just jumping around.
right, new business. Letter A, discuss action DPW mailbox policy. We've all received a copy of this from Mr. Ben Sherman. There are some comments I'd like to share that is Jay is unable to make this meeting, that he did share with the board in regard to this policy, that the board consider. Under number 1, that the residents have met the USPS installation guidelines before being damaged, and that this policy should include the guidelines or a web link to those guidelines.
Where does he want to put
That would mean that we'd have to go and inspect every mailbox.
That's right.
Yeah,
Which is gonna cost a lot of time and money. And I'm not sure guidelines, the USPS guidelines have anything to do with the resiliency of the structure.
True.
It covers the height, can't be less than or more than such and such. But basically, we'd have to go out and make a notation of every mailbox and its conditions and so forth, which would be an onerous task, I'm sure.
Well, as I said, this is what he had mentioned that
Yeah,
he'd
no,
like us to consider,
understand.
so I
And
agree.
I sympathize with the thought behind it, but
The work involved seems onerous.
right, and then if they're in violation, what are we gonna do?
Who takes action, right?
and the other thing is, if a box and its supporting structure is situated and constructed in such a way that it's routinely, blown over or damaged, then, we shouldn't cover it anymore. In other words, otherwise, there's no incentive for the person to do anything about it.
Right.
Mine is set back, the post comes up, and then it comes out to be away a little bit. And,
Okay.
I think this year's due to the heavy snow.
yeah.
That's how mine got knocked over.
Well, when a truck going 30 miles an hour is pushing, 4 inch or 8 inches of heavy, wet snow, and having some knowledge of Newton's laws, there's a lot of force there.
Well, I mean, it does say in section 2 that mailboxes are post damaged by the weight of the plow, the windrow, which is the snow exiting the
Yeah.
end of the plow,
Right.
is not covered, which is just snow flying through the air. Because I agree with you, just
Yeah.
the weight of the snow alone did significant damage this year. I mean, where the snow bent my fence.
Again, the problem you have, the practical problem is how do you determine which is,
Well,
but sometimes it's easy, other
I could
times.
tell
It is,
the way my
exactly,
street
right.
was being plowed. I had like 3 feet that wasn't touched. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, one day, the big truck come by at the last snowstorm we had and just took it and just pushed it all.
That's because they're out to get you.
I never thought of it. I never thought of it that way.
Well, see, you
Along
have
the-
to think in those terms.
Along those lines of that same sentence that you just read, Carrie, also, Jay had suggested that the verbiage be changed where it's saying that the town will no longer be covered, that it should be written that it will not be covered, since this is the beginning of a policy.
I thought this policy existed, though. Wasn't there a there's never been a policy?
This is a brand-new policy, right?
Thought there was
But I know we have reimbursed people.
We
when
have
they-
reimbursed, so what, we were just doing it?
Out of the goodness of our hearts.
Ben Sherman, Department of Public Works. Yeah, there's never been a policy. I wasn't able to find anything. I found a bunch of draft policies that were basically compilations of many communities out there. Yeah, in the past, there has been no set standard on what was done. All I can say is that some were replaced, some were fixed, some were not. So there's never been a set, something set in stone that we are either going to reimburse or we're going to replace or fix. And this year really just brought it to the forefront with all the snow.
So do you feel comfortable with that change, Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if I were to make a comment on the issue with the postal service, I mean, I can change the language under number 1 and just add a link to, you know, the website for installation guidelines, just so they, because they're gonna get it no matter what. If it's not installed correctly, they will get a note from the postmaster that it's not installed correctly. But I can easily add that in there, just as additional language for the reference.
Okay.
In number 3, Ben, you have that such request shall be submitted in writing on the attached form and within 48 hours from the date of the alleged damage, so that it can be assessed and verified for any claim. Is your intention there that any claim coming in after 48 hours
Yes,
will not be considered?
yes.
Or you wanted it at your discretion to do?
Anything outside of 48 hours. I mean, a couple of times that I recall last season, you know, we got calls in May.
Okay.
My
and-
mailbox got knocked over. Are you gonna come in and replace it?
Well, people are away, perhaps, for the winter, which is
May.
not uncommon.
May's an awful long time. And
But
by
if that's the
then,
case, then how do you prove it was a snowplow that knocked it over,
Exactly.
not some kid
I
with a
mean-
baseball bat?
my intention there is to, you know, keep it within a reasonable time frame from the snow event, so everything's fresh. You know, the storm just passed, we can, you know, follow up rapidly on what's going on.
Then my recommendation would be that that's clearly denoted in the policy, that the 48 hours, you know, anything outside of the 48 hours is a denial of claim.
Will not
Unless
be-
so determined by the DPW. You know, so it's their discretion whether or not they're gonna accept a claim outside of 48 hours. You know, because there may be a situation when they do accept it, and we don't want people to feel like they've just bent the policy for.
Yeah,
Yep,
the-
I can
the
add
last
that in
meeting
there.
we do that. One additional comment that Jay had suggested for the board to consider as well is that we add that only 1 claim per household per year should be added to the policy as well.
I mean, when I
can't
first
really
read, I
agree
agreed
with
that, but then again, I mean,
Stuff happens.
you know, yeah, I mean, what if you've got a driver who's just, you know,
Actually, if I can interject, I can tell you why it's not in there, because the intent of this policy is not to reimburse or fix mailboxes. We will replace the mailbox if we in fact strike the mailbox. But 99% of the time, it's the weight of the snow, it's the windrow, it's pushing back like we encountered this year.
That's
All
what
that
happened
snow
to
just
mine.
pushed everything over. That's the reason. I had it in there, but, you know, crafting it this way, it's written as a no replace, no reimburse, no repair, unless we actually strike it. And that's why I think it's important that, you know, within a 48-hour time frame, you know, we get notified of that, which typically we do. It usually comes in before it probably hits the ground, the phone is ringing. But that was my intent with this.
Okay.
Then, to the extent mailboxes are damaged by contractors, are they held responsible?
Yep, there's a statement in there that, you know, if it was in fact on a route that the contractor, the appropriate information will be provided to them so they can reimburse.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns the board has you'd like to share with Ben on this policy?
is our intent to accept the policy this evening? Or are we gonna have him go back for, the addition, you know, the language change for the 48 hours?
I'd like to see the language change, if that's okay with you,
That's
Ben.
fine. Yep.
So we can, I hate to add something to our next meeting agenda, but I think that's important that we do see what it is before we accept it. Anyone else? Comment, agree, disagree? Okay, all right. Thank you, Ben. New business B, discuss action, special town meeting warrant, May 10th, 2011, photo recommendations.
for 1 second on that? I understand that we don't pay sales tax, but can we reimburse for sales tax?
It's the same issue. We don't pay tax, so a reimbursement by its nature would be,
But if we didn't require a receipt, then therefore, we wouldn't know if we were paying sales tax.
what is this in particular to, Cari?
To the mailbox reimbursement.
Yeah,
It says that you may reimburse me up to $30 for damages. No reimbursement shall exceed $30 regardless of the size. Claim must include a receipt for the repairs. The town is tax exempt and will not cover the sales tax. I mean,
I think based on that, I think a reimbursement's a reimbursement at that point.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
If you're limiting it to $30.
It is.
We're limiting it to
No matter what you limit it to,
$30.
because if we give policemen, for instance, $500 to pay for uniforms, they buy uniforms, they pay a tax on the clothes.
Right.
We don't back
reimburse
that
them
out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so we do pay
Yeah,
sales tax.
that probably could be stricken, and just keep it at $30, keep it at a $30
Right.
total reimbursement.
A
Yes.
maximum of $30. So if, including your tax, it comes to $22.50, you get your $22.50 back.
Correct.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that.
You got that? Thanks.
So the special town meeting warrant is for the street acceptance of Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. I'll entertain a motion that the board recommend favorable action for Article 1, street acceptance Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And, now we get to letter C, discuss action annual town meeting warrant, May 10th, 2011, vote recommendations.
Article 25.
Oh, yeah, sure. If the board pleases the board, sorry, Kara, were you gonna say something about
Yeah, go ahead.
the policy?
I just have a question.
If it pleases the board, if we can move to Article 25, it's on the annual town meeting warrant.
Do we have a copy of the warrant?
Yep, it was part of, it's a separate document, part of your package, your mailbox. Which is to amend the Uxbridge zoning bylaws, chapter 400, article 6, section 400-20.b.5.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Mark Anderson, Heritage Design Group. I represent the signatories on the petition. The article that is before you this evening to amend the zoning bylaw is for the electrical generating facilities bylaw that was passed a few years ago. It has come to the attention of a number of different folks here that what was included in that original writing of the bylaw was solar power. In two parts of this bylaw. One is the restriction that you can only have 2 electrical generating facilities in the town at any given time. We're asking that to be exempt, that solar power only be exempt from that bylaw. And number 2 is the dimensional requirement. What was required is that it's a 15-acre site per facility. And we're asking that dimensional requirement to be amended to 5 acres. Now, solar power is not like a gas-generated, facility where it's going to take up 10, 15 acres and require a lot of peer review. This is a very passive use. It's very green. There's really no obstruction to anything, there's no emissions from this, it just sits on the ground about 4 feet above the ground. So the purpose of this amendment would be to allow solar power to be enacted on a 5-acre site and at a minimum, and then actually be able to allow more than 2 per the town of Uxbridge. Now, with solar, it takes about 3 acres to construct a solar field or a solar power area that would allow 0.5 megawatt. Now, you see here, we're talking about 350 to 500 megawatts. Solar, requires 3 acres to do 0.5 megawatt. So it's very much a benign use, it's very passive, and I think this amendment here is very good and very well used, because I think there are places in the town of Uxbridge, businesses in the town of Uxbridge that would well benefit, rooftops, various areas that even on ground level that would benefit from the use of solar, where what happens is the real comeback or the real buyback with solar is that if you generate your 0.5 megawatt and you use that power in your own facility, and then whatever is left over, it gets sold back to the grid. And that's how the system really works, through mostly the buyback, and there also are some tax credits for this. So we're looking to have that amended to be able to allow the solar to be far more utilized in a number of facilities. We have a lot of structures in town, maybe even the schools could get into something like this. One of the things that by doing this amendment...
How many 5-acre schools do we have?
5-acre sites, I'm sure you have many of those. I mean, the Taft School alone is over 5 acres. Whiten School is over 5 acres.
What if it were smaller? If it's so benign, which it is, why have a minimum?
We felt, and I was going to get to that, you're right, it could be even less. But again, it takes 3 acres at a minimum to do 0.5 megawatt, and cost-wise, if you cannot go beyond that, you really can't do anything.
That may be true under present technologies and present economics, but it may not be true 5 years from now.
That could be true.
Solar panels are already exempt from zoning, aren't they?
Yes, they are to a certain degree under Chapter 40A,
Yes.
Section 3. Solar energy, solar panels, and solar power it's exempt from undue restrictions.
That's
It's not
correct.
exempt completely.
That's correct.
And what we're proposing here, let me finish, please.
Go ahead.
What we are proposing here is, the way this bylaw is written, it still has site plan review through the planning board, special permit site plan review through the planning board. We opted to go this route and maintain that somewhat of a control for the town to actually have some say in how these fields are built. Because there may be areas that, could have some differences, even though it's only allowed in the industrial zone, we're maintaining that it's still only allowed in the industrial zone and not residential
I
zones.
beg to differ with you. Under the state law, I think it's allowed in any zone.
It is allowed in any zone.
And I don't see where the planning board or any other town agency would have the kind of, quote, oversight you're talking about. As you know, state law is very specific about what the locality can impose. And they're very strict about the kinds of things that planning boards typically like to impose. Those things aren't gonna fly. So it's hard for me to understand the need for it.
The need is
If I were going to do one of those things, I would much rather work under the state law than the local bylaw.
Well, we've seemed to have run into this locally here. You've been unfortunately without a building inspector, and, the whole idea of the zoning opinion, through different councils, not town council, I'm sorry, but different councils seem to have a concern over the way the state law is written versus having the present bylaw in place. So that's why we're going before the town on this.
Well, I'd like to hear from someone that has that view, because I don't see how they can make that claim.
Well, I think it's all about the language of the under restrictions on that, the way chapter 48 is written. I think that's very vague.
Well, I think it's nice, because it's up to the town to prove that its restriction is not undue.
And I think what this does is takes that away from, and makes it very clear.
No, it doesn't at all, because there are no standards here.
Right.
It just says the planning board can review it. But if you look at the planning board regulations under their major non-residential development, it's full of a lot of stuff, but not a lot in the way of standards.
Right? I agree with you there.
So, I don't know. Is it a petition article?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so it'll be on the warrant.
It is. We're here for a recommendation.
Yeah, no, it didn't say here whether it's petition or not. I don't know, that's just my view. I don't like to complicate things.
There was something that you said that I just want to clarify, that there's been some confusion. Did you say there was confusion raised because we've been without a building inspector and this issue has arisen?
Right, because
We
it,
were only without a building inspector technically for what, a day?
well,
So
the,
I'm kind of confused by that statement.
I'd like to answer the question. A client of ours had approached the interim building inspector, and he said he is not here to answer zoning questions.
Okay, so
Well, then we have to look for a new building inspector, because under our bylaws, our
we have
idiotic.
a new-
We do have a
No,
new
we
building
have-
inspector
we do
now.
have a-
We do have a new building
It's
inspector now,
actually-
so.
Yes, please.
Please do.
Here tonight, I'm the new building commissioner. My name is Nelson Burlingame. I met everybody on the left side, but nobody on the right side. And to answer this gentleman's questions, I've been working diligently. I've only been here a week and a day, but I've been working diligently on the zoning, and I've been catching up on it. And I actually have a checkoff list to make sure I get back to everybody. And I pretty much weeded it down. And your particular question, I didn't see it as a question for me to answer, but I guarantee you, in the future, if you have any questions, they will be answered by the building department.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Other questions by the board?
Okay, so then this article was specifically, am I wrong to assume that this article is being brought forth because there's a particular project that's looking to amend this bylaw for their
No,
purposes?
it was not specifically for one project, it was many.
Okay, so the amendment, so how is the bylaw currently written that the applicant feels that they can't work within it?
Based on the fact that the signatories on the petition article, you're only allowed, according to the bylaw, 2 facilities in the town, and they have to be a minimum of 15 acres each. Presently,
it's a
that's how the
land-
bylaw is.
Okay, so the land is the issue in this particular case?
Correct.
Because we don't have any facilities in town, so it's not like the limit of 2 is an issue here.
Correct, we don't have any today.
So the issue is they're looking to decrease it from 15 acres to 5 acres.
Correct.
But any restriction the town, through its bylaws, impose based on a certain area requirement is prima facie an undue restriction.
That could very well be true.
Well, I state categorically it is true. You give me some logical public purpose in saying that solar panels must use a minimum of 5 acres on a 5-acre parcel. There are no emanations from them. There's no noise from them of any sort. See, there has to be, in zoning bylaws, it starts with a purpose, to protect this, protect that, and so forth, from noise and sounds and smells. So those are there, because you have to have some justification for restricting people's rights to use their property. So it would be incumbent upon the town, if it wanted to restrict, under the state law, the use to have minimum 15 acres or even 5 acres. The town would have to make a positive showing that serves some legitimate and real public policy concern. And
Are
I
you
can't imagine
arguing
it.
then that, are you arguing then that it doesn't matter if it says 5 or 15? They should
That's
be able
correct.
to apply for a special permit to waive that
You
requirement?
don't need a special permit.
Or a variance from the bylaw?
You don't need a variance.
Well, because it
See-
currently says
15 acres, so you're saying it should say no minimum
No, my theory is you
Having a hard
don't
time
need
arguing.
this because you're protected by state law.
Excuse me, sorry. Could you come to the podium, please, and, sorry, it's just so the people at home can hear.
What Peter's trying to say is he thinks it's illegal, and I think he might be right, you know?
Okay.
It would be illegal for the town to restrict
Yes.
solar panels to 15 acres, or to say you have to have a traffic study, or to say you have to plant a certain kind of tree. You know, it just won't work.
right, because the protection, the
Protection
protection's
applied.
already provided by
Because
MGL.
public policy, wise or not, is in favor of promoting the use of solar panels. That's why all of us pay a higher electric bill to build these things, because we, the customer, pay for these solar panels. They're not free, they don't really pay for themselves. The users pay an extra fee on their electric bill every month, it's on the back of your bill, and that's where these subsidies come from.
I don't disagree with anything you have said. I am representing what.
I appreciate that.
And I do totally agree with, you know, the way 48 is written. But the fact of the matter is that it appears that, you know, through various clients, that lending institutions have a disagreement between what's written in Uxbridge and what's written with the state. And in order to move forward, they felt this was the best way to proceed.
Then I
Well,
think,
have those lending institutions call me.
well, then I think the question, then what you're proposing here, and if I'm understanding the argument that's transpiring here, is that putting 15 acres, putting 5 acres, putting whatever it is, we could be in violation of MGL just in the language alone. So I don't see amending it to 5 acres is the answer here. Therefore, I make a motion to recommend unfavorable action on Article 25.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
If the board would allow that we move to discuss new business letter E, as we do have people in the audience, to discuss the new high school project, the stipend, building, electrical, and plumbing inspector, and then we'll go back to the warrant. Just want people, keep people here unnecessarily. So, the question for the board, I feel, is that we need to make a decision if we still want to offer the stipend that was originally agreed to back in January with the existing building inspector and our 2 other plumbing and electrical inspectors.
Does that require our approval?
I thought we had already approved this.
We had, I guess the issue that has come about is that with our new building inspector, who unfortunately has just left the room, is that it was not made a part of his offer letter of coming on board, to be aware that there was going to be a stipend as part of his performance.
That may be true as far as the building inspector goes, but not the electrical inspector. I thought that had been agreed to.
Right.
That was agreed to.
Well, that's, right, so I guess that's
So
the,
therefore, I thought the issue was, is the school building committee was supposed to, we had made a determination to pay our portion, and it was supposed to go before the school
Right.
building committee. The school
Correct.
building committee
Right.
was supposed to put
But
up
we had a little.
the
dis-
matching side of that
we had-
dollar figure.
We had a
Where does
discussion
that stand?
today, is why should the building inspector be left out of this when he was included to start with?
Because it's a new one, and there's a
new contract.
We did discuss the school project, and he was aware of it.
And we discussed that as the board in the hiring, that it was not part of his compensation.
I feel like he should be
before we
here for this
continue,
discussion, yeah.
Romeo, are you happy with the stipend for the electrical work?
Could you please come
Okay.
to the podium? Okay, all right.
So he's happy, so we don't need to change anything with him.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess that I didn't preface it correctly. It's not a question of changing the stipend for our electrical or our plumbing inspectors. It's a question
Okay.
of the inclusion of the building inspector, because that was the original agreement
Okay,
in receiving the stipend. And the school building committee is still willing to support what they agreed to of funding the portion from January 1st through June 30th of this year. And then the town would fund fiscal year 2012. And then beyond that, we were going to come back together between the school building committee and the town for the, whatever goes beyond that
the
for
school's gonna
January.
cover the period from what?
What? Yeah, back up for a second.
January to,
January 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2011.
Who was covering that?
The school building committee.
But there's
Okay.
no
I didn't
inspection
think-
work. How much electrical inspection work is done?
Excuse me, could you come to the podium, please? So people at home can hear you as well? That's okay.
I just wanna make sure that we don't get stuck with most of the share.
Actually, we started our work when we received the drawings.
Yeah,
We started right after we had that meeting, and it was the meeting we had to exclude the permit fees, and also the agreement with the inspectors, which included the building inspector at that time, naturally. So with that, we got right to work and started on the drawings. I mean, there was a lot of reviewing to do on those drawings. I've been down to the site 4 times.
okay.
So, and I know the building inspector, the temporary building inspector had been there, and I know the new one has also been there. So, and I've spent a lot of time, and I think the other 2 inspectors also, on specifications. It's probably, people don't think that's part of our thing, is to check the specifications, because it has nothing to do with the National Electrical Code as far as I'm concerned. But I think that being in the field, that I am probably the most qualified person to make sure if somebody's calling for a Class A disconnecting means, that I can recognize a Class A disconnecting means as opposed to probably anyone else. So I've spent an awful lot of time on the specifications also. So we've been busy with it right along. Thank you.
Thank you.
But as far as the building inspector's part of it, if the manager came to an agreement with the new building inspector,
Right.
what is our role?
Yeah, that's what I'm confused over, because my understanding and when you all said that you hired somebody, and I'm speaking to Bruce also because you were at those meetings, it was explained that there was a school project and that we reached an agreement outside of that. So I don't understand why we would be looking to negotiate an agreement different than that was just negotiated a week ago. I guess I'm confused.
Because my concern is that if the stipend was made aware, that the existing,
Well,
the prior
it's
building inspector should have been made aware of it.
who was made aware of it?
But he was made of the project. I mean,
But, it's, to me,
accept
it's-
and, offer an acceptance. I get,
I'm just looking, in my opinion, I'm looking for
I'm looking at being
equality.
fair.
Yeah, for equity amongst all of our inspectors working on the project.
I mean, what's the salary difference between, specifically, do we really,
No, the only thing that the present electrical, building inspector, I'm sorry, hasn't done was do the plan review. There was there was a lot of work going through those drawings. If you, people have looked at them, they weigh like
I've
40
seen 'em.
pounds. So that, I grant you, he hasn't done. But the future work he's gonna be doing, I would feel pretty badly if I were in his shoes and I was the one omitted. Actually, it's probably the department head, and we're gonna say, well, okay, Romeo, you can get paid, and Peter, you can get paid, but our new guy isn't going to. I honestly feel it would be an injustice to him.
That's
to
the
do
way
that,
I felt.
you know,
That's just the way I felt about it.
But
And
that's a
what-
matter of the town manager to decide. We
That's
didn't
not our
set,
position.
we didn't set the stipends for the electrical inspector or the plumbing inspector, the town manager did that. Right?
I
In
think it was a
agreement with-
mutual agreement
Was a
at a
mutual
meeting
agreement.
with the board, with the chairman of the board, the town manager, representative from the.
Well, you may
school
had a
board.
meeting with the chairman of the board,
But that wasn't,
but
that
according to the
wasn't,
charter, that's not a responsibility of the Board of Selectmen.
Correct, no, it's
If the Board of
representative.
Selectmen wants to have something to say about that, then we, at a meeting, discuss it, and we make a motion, and if it's, you know, is
We didn't give
adopted
a-
by 3 affirmative votes, then, you know, we can make that known to the manager.
my understanding is the only reason why we got involved in this, because it was, the question was raised before the board of a cost issue with relating to the school project, is why the board was brought in on it, because we were, you know, the owners of the project. Outside of that, this was a management decision on the compensation of that position. Are we now, you know, are you saying that, you know, there's something specific that's been, you know, do we have a grievance here? You understand what I'm?
I do, I guess
I mean, I don't know, I mean,
I'm looking
and
for,
the compensation package, you know, the same of the two, the experience the same, there, you know, it's not just because one is paid one and one's paid the other, without, that's the way the manager looks at the qualification, looks at the whole package. I think that we're taking one little piecemeal and going, well, you don't have this, but we haven't looked at the whole package.
well, I guess that'd be something for the town manager to answer, if you looked at the entire package and what your decision-making process was
Well,
for that.
I mean, and I think, you know, I was never a big fan of the stipends, but the discussion went the way it did with the former building commissioner. And, you know, I felt that unless, you know, we came to an agreement that it couldn't have a negative impact on the project. So when we looked for a new building inspector, I made it clear what was required, that we had a large school project. We discussed the fact that it was controlled construction, and that, you know, primarily he would be receiving reports and reviewing them, rather than actively being, you know, I think you said you probably would go out there 4 or 5 times? Was that what you said? And, I mean, I made you aware of what was required, and you certainly had the opportunity to look at the site, and that was, I thought, there was a offer and acceptance.
And under normal times, in the town of Uxbridge, we'd have, what, 15 to 20 new homes being built, and commercial things being renovated and so forth, so all of that has really disappeared. I mean, it's just, there isn't a heck of a lot.
The only reason I'm bringing it up is a matter
The basic issue
of
is, it's
equity.
not the Board of Selectmen's,
But
prerogative.
it's not our, you know, we're here if there's an issue that arises, to look into whether or not, you know, there's an issue. I don't see where an issue has risen. I mean, I mean, at the time that there's a review, it can be assessed whether or not the employee is being assessed, or if there's an outstanding performance and it comes before us that there's a consideration for the manager to provide some type of bonus. But for us to arbitrarily just come in and go, well, we don't think there's equity here, I mean, do you know what the base salary is? Do you know how it compares to others? Do you know what, I mean, so, but the rest of the board does not have that information, and you're asking us to make a decision when we don't have all the information before us.
Well, these are conversations that we just had with Mike today as well, so,
Yeah, but you didn't just put it on the agenda today.
all right,
negotiated on behalf of the town. And there was a willingness to accept the position at that level, and we proceeded from there.
I mean, we were informed as a board, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we said that he hired, it was that, you know, it was clearly stated, and no one on the board raised an issue 2 weeks ago when we were told that this position was hired.
Right, but that was posthumous after the offer had already been made, so at that point.
Well,
had
the
we
offer's already been
rescinded?
made now, so what's the difference?
I guess it's a matter of procedure then, because I wasn't made aware until after the fact the offer was made, and then what the specifics of it were.
But that's not
So,
our
and the other,
position.
but the other piece also then is, that that the school building committee has still made is going to fund, as I said, the first half of this year. So, I think it's for us then to say to them, we'd like you to fund it, and for what the amount would be, and if that is for the 2 inspectors, then that's what we need to
But that's a separate issue.
clear.
That's between us and the school building committee, right? It doesn't involve the inspectors, really.
At what specific
Right,
meeting
but
did the
that's what
school
I meant.
building committee vote that?
Oh, gosh, it was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
Okay.
It was a while ago.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just as a point of clarification,
Yes.
I spoke with the school business manager this afternoon about this particular issue, and he indicated to both myself and the manager that they had not officially agreed to pay any stipend
Thank you. I
for
didn't
this
think that.
fiscal, this fiscal year. They said that there was pending questions that they had regarding the project, and that at this point in time, there would be no guarantee one way or the other that they would do that, but it would have to be on a future agenda.
Right.
So, just as a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, now you're saying it never came out in the school building committee
No.
meeting, then they didn't
Not as
officially vote
official,
it.
not as official.
Well, then it's not official.
Oh, no, I know it's
But
not
you just
official.
said 2 minutes ago that it was official, and I asked you at what meeting they took the vote, and you both said they took a vote.
They didn't take a vote. They didn't bring it up yet.
They've brought it up
We've
as a
talked
discussion
about
point.
it.
It's a
We've talked
discussion
about it.
point.
Okay,
There hasn't
if
been
there's
formal
been no
action on it.
full, then they're not doing it.
We've talked about it, that's it.
So
And
there
they-
is
and they
no
have
action
said-
by the school
And
committee,
they
and
have
so
said
therefore
that
they're
they
not
will,
doing it.
that they have said that they will help support this.
But they haven't taken official vote, so
Correct.
therefore,
Correct, because we were in limbo as to what was
Right.
happening with our previous
Inspector.
building inspector, then our interim building inspector. Now we have a full-time building inspector. Or a new
This would already been
building
done,
inspector.
Carrie. If there was a building inspector in place, if the old building inspector would have stayed, this would have been already done.
but this issue we voted on back in 2010, wasn't it?
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that I feel it's unfair to the new building inspector, that's all. That's just the way I feel. You might feel different, that's your choice.
I understand, but I think that there's 2 points here. One, we don't have an officially, now we know, officially for the record, that the school building committee has not taken a motion to pay any inspectors under their budget. The only funds being paid currently, right now, was a vote taken by this board to pay the portion that was agreed upon from the town side.
In fiscal 2012.
In 2012,
In
correct.
2012.
Right now, it's
So
in
no one is being
2
paid.
budgets, not 3.
Okay, so no
Correct.
one is being paid a budget, any type of stipend through 2011 then?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not to this point.
Officially, correct.
not
Okay.
officially, yet.
So, in my mind, that changes where we're at, because then the work that's been done by the former building inspector and the plumbing inspector and the electrical inspector, they have been doing outside of a stipend. They've been doing it within their normal compensation package.
But they've been doing it waiting upon resolution of what was going to happen with in getting the stipends, actually, the money actually
Is that
allocated.
the case? Or
Is
we've been
that
paying
right?
them because it's the
Are-
agreement we made, and the division between the town and the school is an internal matter. How is it, Mike?
Well, we haven't been paying those stipends
Okay.
because we have no appropriation for them.
Okay,
But, I mean, the commitment was made and should be honored.
okay.
But that's not our choice at this point, because we're not paying it out of our, it comes down to the school building committee, and whether or not they're gonna take a vote to retroactively pay them for work already previously performed. And in that case, are they gonna pay the former building inspector, even though no longer an employee, for time compensated when he worked here?
To my knowledge, the former building inspector has not expressed an interest in getting remuneration in the stipend. So I would say that it would
But
be,
is he under the impression that he was paid and is just waiting for that check?
no,
I think there's a lot of assumptions
No.
going on here.
no,
No.
no.
Well, time is going by. Why don't we can see that, I'm not sure what's before us at this point. But we certainly need some clarification from the school building committee, primarily, so that we all know and understand what the responsibilities are of the different sections of the town government.
So in the next, school building committee is May
May 18th.
18th, okay. If you suggest that, if everyone agrees that an agenda item be placed on there, that the school building committee discuss
I'll
the commitment
contact them
for the stipends.
tomorrow or the next day.
Well, not to
And vote,
discuss,
discuss,
to
and
make a
vote, right, in
resolution,
action.
resolve something.
Right,
A formal action.
formal action.
Sure.
Okay,
No problem at all.
all right, great. Of course.
Will this in any way change the motion or the acceptance that has been previously made by this board? To take care of
No,
No,
all that?
no.
No.
Thank you.
no. Okay,
I guess then to answer the, we need clarification on our previous motion on the stipends, if we can get that, to specifically how we phrase that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that myself.
thank you. Okay. And everyone else is here. Excuse me, are you here for something specific?
Yeah, the waive the street acceptance pharmacy for Deerfield and Wildlife.
Okay. All right, so if it pleases the board, we can move to new business, letter H, discuss action Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive. This request to waive the street acceptance filing fee. And that was a letter we had received from Attorney Lane, dated April 19th, stating that the homeowners have already provided a fee of $1,500 to the town of Uxbridge. And that there was a request this week, well, that week, for an additional $500 processing fee. So now the original $1,500, was that?
Yeah, there was a $1,500, it's $500 a street that was originally filed last town meeting, and only a portion of those funds have been expended.
Okay.
There still is enough money remaining to do the recording.
Okay, so
Okay, so we're,
we should waive it.
So we don't need the $500?
We don't need the additional
Correct, because we have the
$500,
money
okay.
from last time still that's
Okay.
unused.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, so,
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Rather than setting the precedent of waiving the funds, I think the motion be to apply
the previously paid
Apply.
funds.
previously paid funds
Okay.
that
Good idea.
remain.
Okay.
Motion to apply the funds previously submitted to the town of Uxbridge for the street acceptance of Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive in the amount of $1,500 to the current street acceptance.
I think it'd be 1,000 then?
It's $500 a street, so.
Well,
It's already
okay, well then,
1,000.
I guess that, before I continue with my motion, that, is that They paid $1,500 when there was only two street, it
No,
was
there was
$1,000.
It was only
streets.
1,000, it was only
$1,000.
1,000.
It was only $1,000,
Mhm.
okay. And we used a portion of that to file,
For
isn't
town
one of them
council.
filed?
Right,
Foxwood.
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 Foxwood was voted on and passed at the fall town meeting.
So they paid $1,500, $500 went to Foxwoods.
Right.
Then there's $1,000 remaining for Deerview and
And
Wildlife.
Wildlife.
that has-
$500 a street.
Right, which has not been expended, so we
Right.
have that, okay.
We have a portion of that 1,000.
Okay, then I'm in the motion, so it would be that,
If we already have the money.
we already have the money,
For
because they've
that
already
purpose,
paid.
why do we need a motion?
Yeah,
We have a specific request from the residents to just make sure that they're not charged additional fees this time around for the filing
did we
fees.
specifically ask them to pay the fees again?
It's standard for street acceptance. This is a unique situation because after the fact of the last town meeting and the final deed came in, town council has reviewed all their correspondence. It was assumed that the day of town meeting last time, that final deed would be in, and it came in the day after. So we were under the impression we were going forward and things were going to be recorded, and it was the day after town meeting when everything stopped.
Okay.
So does that work have to be,
No, the documents are in final form and have been approved by town council. The task at hand for this is to recommend, go forward at town meeting and record the documents.
okay, so town council has already been paid and will not be used again on this matter?
Correct.
So there's no reduplication of
Correct.
anything in the process?
Correct.
And we already have the money,
Right.
Yep.
it's available, so I don't know that any motion is required.
Right.
Well, in Attorney Lane's letter, he's asking on behalf of the homeowners, we respectfully request that you waive this additional fee. It's our second to last page in our packet, so,
Right,
But there is no
but
additional
we didn't
fee.
ask for the fee, so therefore,
well, and he's saying this past
No,
week, there
we
was a
were- we
request from
were
the town
asked
manager's
for the
office
fee
for an
again.
additional $500 processing fee, so they have been asked for the fee.
Right.
It
It's
is a new
standard.
application, so
Yeah, it's a
new-
there was a new request for a fee because it was a new application.
Oh, okay,
But the funds remain.
okay.
But Mike makes a good point. In this situation, and certainly several of these streets are in a unique situation, to apply the previously submitted monies
Correct.
submitted to the.
As opposed to waiving the
So
fee.
the
I guess my
motion would
question
be
is-
to inform the residents that there is, a new fee is not required, since we have available previously paid monies to defer the expense.
I guess my question is, why is it a new application then? Why aren't we acting on a previously submitted application?
Because the citizens petition expired, so it comes in as a new submission.
Okay, so that's just our administrative
Process.
Well, it was put on the warrant, so, I mean, it was
Yeah.
used before on the previous warrant and not passed, so we need a new petition. It's a new article.
Right, I'm just trying to differentiate the situation where we've had in the past, where we've had a street come before us that hasn't passed. They've come back before us again, but we have had to pay for all of those fees again.
We've always got the money up front.
Because sometimes we have expended all that money, so they have to pay it again.
Yeah.
So what is differentiating this from that? You understand, in
Yes,
the
I do.
way the drafting of the motion?
Because basically, the day
The
after
money's-
town
The
meeting,
money's there.
We
the
only
last
used
deed came in,
500.
and all our homework was done internally. We just had one last thing to do, is finalize and go record the documents. But all other preparation work was done.
Okay.
But you're right, there has been other situations
Where they've had to repay,
yes.
because even though we had done everything,
Correct.
they had to start the whole process over again.
Correct.
So
And
that's why
that
I'm
was-
looking for what's the difference between
Yep.
this and that?
And in those circumstances too, that street acceptance went by like a year or two later too. Exactly.
Okay. So there are extenuating circumstances to this.
Exactly.
So,
What do you
Um,
have
You
for a
already put the
motion?
motion.
no, I didn't finish the
No,
motion.
But that Peter put, no.
Peter threw some stuff in there, but, let me just, give me one sec.
Would be motion to apply.
Hold on one
Previously paid and unapplied funds. Previously paid unapplied funds,
Unexpended.
unexpended.
Motion by Ms. Robertson to inform the residents that no fee is required in the previously.
We are requiring the fee. They already paid it.
Yeah, Peter's doing that, so.
Can you read the whole,
Let me just finish
motion,
what he
please?
put in, you put in, everybody put in, and then
Right.
figure it out. Motion by Ms. Robertson to inform the residents that no fee is required and the previously submitted unexpended funds to the town of Uxbridge will be used for the street acceptance filing.
Maybe no additional fee is required?
That's what I was gonna add. No additional
No additional
fees
fees.
as previously paid fees were non-expensed or whatever that word is.
Unexpended.
Unexpended.
Motion by Ms. Robertson to inform the residents that the fee
Previously paid.
Do you want submitted unexpended or just,
Previously paid
yeah?
fee was unexpended, therefore will be applied.
Oh, no additional fees required after that.
What was that?
No additional fees required?
Sure, no additional fees required. Okay, just
No,
no,
how about no additional fees are anticipated?
Or
In this-
required.
let me just read the whole thing.
Please.
Motion by Ms. Robertson to inform the residents that no fee previously, hold on. That the previously paid fee, to inform the residents that no fee, help me here, what do you got? No fee.
Wait a minute, I thought you were reading it. Are you
Oh,
still
you
adding?
changed it a little bit too on the way, hold on. To inform the residents that no fee
No previously paid fee.
No additional fee
Additional fee.
is required.
No additional,
No, yeah, that's okay. No additional fee is required
as previously paid monies are unexpended and will be applied to this application.
We should have went with the wave.
All right,
It was easier.
it really was. To inform the residents that no additional fee is required as previously paid monies are unexpended.
And will be applied to this application.
How does that story about the tangled web go? I forgot.
Tangled web, we wave.
When we practice.
Don't, you're gonna change the minutes next week, I tell you. All right, to inform the residents that no additional fee is required as previously paid monies are unexpended and will be applied to this application.
How's that sound?
Peter?
I don't care. Just end
No,
it.
no, I mean, I mean,
So
I'm
you
just
can-
concerned not so much about this, but the
Bruce?
precedent that we're setting. That's the only thing
We're
about
not
it.
setting any precedent. We
Well-
admit, we have a fee, we've
We're not
received the
waiving it,
fee. We're
right.
not waiving a fee. We didn't expend all the fee received, therefore, the amounts unexpended are sufficient to cover the remaining expenses.
Maybe we need to add that.
Uh-oh.
No, I only say because if we don't expend all the fee, then I just want to open the door that, well, if you didn't expend all my fees, then do I get a refund back of what you didn't spend?
True.
That's what I'm
Well,
trying to
and
avoid, you know what I'm
Normally you do.
saying?
When the planning board gets a fee for
But we
engineering
don't-
services and so forth.
But we usually
Yeah.
don't return it. It's a $500 flat fee.
No, I know that because the cost
Well,
is that.
That's,
Okay, so to inform the residents that no additional fee is required as previously paid monies are unexpended and will be applied to this application. Seconded by Mr. Desilets.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all
Awesome.
set.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Sherman, I believe you're here for letter G as well, which is the discuss action water project, National Grid Assent Agreement, access for water project. So we'll talk about that before we get back into the warrant. We'll address that now before we get back into the warrant.
Essentially, what you have in front of you is an agreement between the town and National Grid for the use of the, or reestablishing an easement between the town and National Grid for access down to the well site. So it's gonna include coverage for both the water mains and the well project in the area where we come off of Quaker Highway underneath the existing electrical easement. I believe any and all comments that have come up have been relayed to the board, I believe, from town council. So I'm just here to answer any questions you may have, if you have any, from the DPW.
Was this a standard contract? The assent agreement? Was this boilerplate?
I believe it is.
It seems
It's
to be.
pretty straightforward.
It seems to be, Carrie, because it looks like, you know, it's boilerplate for the one that we have for the
Yeah,
high
you have
school.
one for the high school project, you have
And
one for the water.
the water project.
So,
Town council has reviewed the document, has approved it to form. He only addressed concerns with making sure that there was pollution liability coverage.
Yep, I had a response back from the water main contractor. That is included in their insurance policy. I'm waiting on a final read from the well contractor. I guess best way to put it is they have a partial coverage underneath their existing policy for pollution. So at this point, they're fully evaluating with their insurance agent, you know, what the extent of the coverage is needed and what if any is gonna be the cost for that.
What was council's concern with that?
To make sure there was enough, make sure they had pollution liability coverage.
Okay, and if they don't have it, then what's council's recommendation?
Well, we need to make sure they have it, because then it will get kicked back to the town at a high cost to the town. But we're pretty sure they have that.
Yeah, one has definitely gotten back to me about having it. The second one has partial coverage, but not to the limits. So they're trying
So
to
what's the
confirm
concern?
that. I'm sorry?
Okay, so if they don't have it to the limits, then what's the,
They're getting back to me with a cost of what the additional insurance coverage is gonna be
the cost to who?
to the contractor.
To the contractor? And is there a chance the contractor will not pay that cost?
He's gonna have to be able to access the site. That's why, essentially, it'll turn out to be a change order on the project. So it'll be an additional cost for obtaining the insurance required on the project, which was not included in the bid.
Okay. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to, because if we sign the document and this isn't resolved yet,
right.
I don't see how we can sign this until
Correct.
this is resolved.
Yep.
So, my
Well, we
recommendation.
can
pass over.
approve it contingent upon
Yeah.
verification of the increased liability coverage.
Ben,
But
does he have
if-
any idea what this additional coverage will cost?
Right, I mean.
Well, that's what
there's
I'm waiting
still
on
questions
from
on the
them.
prior
It's
change order.
inexpensive, it's not expensive to raise your limit from a high limit to a very high limit.
Right.
I mean, because the chances of those catastrophic events are very low.
Correct.
So we may only be talking a few $100s.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't anticipate it being much. Like I said, the water mains contractor, that is part of their current insurance. So it's already included. Just happens that the water main the well contractor is, you know, working those details out with their provider at this time. And prior to me coming over here a little while ago, I had yet to hear back from them.
These are standard limits. I mean, I see these all the time. I'd be very surprised if they didn't have them already.
And the timeliness of us taking action on this,
Yeah, is there a limit on our time?
a limit,
Basically, as soon as possible. Once the contracts get signed for both the water and the water well and the water mains, I will issue them a notice to proceed, so, you know, the clock will start ticking, but
Well, the only reason I ask is Peter had suggested that we approve it pending the confirmation of that versus waiting until our next meeting and you'll have the answer by then. So that's why I was asking about the timeliness of it.
yeah, I mean, if it can be approved conditioned upon,
Conditionally, upon the confirmation of the,
that would be greatly
Sufficient.
appreciated, so we can close that chapter.
Motion to approve the assent agreement between the town of Uxbridge and New England Power Company, pending final notification on pollution,
contractor's pollution liability.
contractor's pollution liability, at which time of confirmation, the board will sign the document.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're welcome.
Did you get all that, Tracy?
Yeah.
And for knowledge,
There's another one for the water.
That was the water.
that was water.
I thought there were two of
There
them.
are, and that's what I was going to say. So,
Okay.
letter F, which addresses the, assent agreement for the access for the new high school, we don't have information back yet from
Okay.
Shaman, so I don't feel comfortable taking any action on that one, so we're gonna pass over that item for new business.
Because we don't know whether they have the pollution insurance.
Correct,
Correct.
exactly. So, all right,
Okay. the
now, if we go back to the warrant,
Joe.
thank you all for that.
Just as an aside, while you're looking up the warrant,
Yes,
the electrical, the solar generating thing he's talking about, I'm just reading our current bylaws. And this is the electrical generating facilities, and the things that are acceptable with a special permit, issue a special permit, where is it
that's what
here?
I was trying to look for.
500, okay, 350 megawatts or less, using natural gas, renewable, and ultra-low sulfur fuels. You know what a renewable fuel is? Wood. Wood or wood chips. Now, I'm sure when they wrote this, when that guru wrote this, he didn't have that in mind, but that's the reality. Every time I read these things, I find more.
Wait a minute, isn't renewable anything? It could be any, some of the new energies fall under renewable that are not wood.
Oh,
Some of the
yes.
new powering, they're using sand.
Yeah, that's renewable. No, sand is not renewable.
Why
Wood
not?
is real because it grows.
Article 10.
Sand isn't renewable?
No, it doesn't grow.
Choice.
Okay. All right, is it Article 10 for?
Article 6.
Okay. If we could jump to Article 6 of the Spring Annual Town Warrant, which is on page 5, addressing wastewater department budget and enterprise fund.
Motion for favorable action.
So move, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Article 7?
Article 7, water department budget and enterprise fund as well.
Motion to recommend favorable action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then is it Article
Article 10.
10, borrowing authorization, new front-end loader?
That's a passover.
This is a Passover?
Yes, we lack, unfortunately, we lack sufficient ability to borrow for that this year.
We're going to 11, dump truck.
Yes.
Oh, dump truck,
Do
okay.
you want to do a motion to pass over?
Certainly can.
Yes.
They'll put it in.
Yes,
Thank you.
motion to pass over
Article 10,
Yeah,
with an explanation.
yeah.
second.
So,
Are you clear on what the Passover
what the motion is?
motion is?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a
So
second.
because
I got a second,
no
yeah.
funding.
No funding, okay.
Okay.
Second by Bruce
Wait a minute, where are we?
on Article
Ten.
10.
What happened
So
to eight?
Wait a minute,
What happened to eight?
That's
no, they're
ambulance.
jumping around, but
We're jumping,
Addressing
we're
the ones
doing
for
water.
the DPW right now. We're just addressing
Right.
Ben, so he.
I thought we just passed over 10.
Yeah, on
Right.
Article 10,
It's a Paso.
But we're making a motion to explain why we're passing over it, so it'll be printed in the warrant,
Okay.
that there's no funding available. And so,
Oh, I
have
see
that
what you're
motion.
saying,
Okay.
okay.
Seconded-
We don't have borrowing
Second.
capacity.
We don't
Correct.
have borrowing.
No
capacity.
borrowing
No borrowing
capacity.
capacity for it. And so it's seconded by Bruce. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I apologize. I'm trying to help get Ben out of here. So then Article 11 is the borrowing authorization for the new combination dump truck.
I recommend favorable action. Article 11.
What's the combination? The combination
Yeah.
of dump truck and what, front end loader?
That would be nice, I wish, but no, it's a combination dump truck. It serves dual purpose. It's used as a sander, but also a dump truck. So with the movement of a plate, it's got a conveyor. You can sand with it, or you can use it as just straight dump truck.
What size?
I'm sorry?
What size?
Well, it's gonna be a 6-wheel. I think it's roughly a 10-yard
5 or
capacity.
10 ton?
Well, the vehicle itself,
Yeah.
it's gonna be over 1,400 GVW, or 14,000 GVW.
Okay, so 7
So,
tons.
yeah, it's gonna be a full-size dump truck.
Keep it off
Have
Main
you
Street.
decided what type,
Like the actual make,
Mack,
Brand.
Ford?
I'm working out those finer details, but it's down between a Mack and a international truck. I've gotten some budget figures from both, so I'm trying to actually spec out, based on the information that we have, like a specific spec. So at this point, most likely, it's gonna be an international due to price,
And fuel, are you looking at gasoline or diesel?
diesel.
And prior to bringing this online, have we, and I know that our supervisor, highway supervisor is new, but has he been tasked with coming up with a maintenance plan to specifically address the issues with the equipment and making sure that this
Yes,
equipment is
he actually
taken
stopped
care
by
of?
this afternoon, and we were just chit-chatting about things going forward, and that is one item on my priority list. Essentially an overhaul of the fleet maintenance and management operation that we have, from all aspects, from, dealing with or updating our inventory, getting, putting away, I should say, old equipment, either auctioning or trading, depending on how it would work. Everything ranging from vehicles to small equipment. We have, as you know, an aging fleet, and some of them are in states of disrepair that are no longer useful. So trying to do that clean sweep, more so, not so much spring cleaning, but it'll be our 2011 cleaning is my goal.
And what's our anticipation to do with the 1990 that we're replacing?
As far as what do we want to do with it, basically get rid of it. If they'll take it as a trade, that'll help us on the purchase cost. Like I said, on top of that, there's some other equipment out there, other vehicles that are in need of auction. So it's essentially replacing the one, but there will be other vehicles that will be leaving the fleet also.
Okay, so I guess my question is because, in these vehicles, sometimes parting them out can be, I understand there's labor intense with that,
Right.
but, selling it for parts can be more lucrative than doing a trade, or have we looked at those other alternatives?
From what I know on the particular truck that's mentioned there, everything on it is in dire need of replacement.
Okay.
So I don't want to say never, but chances are that there really isn't much on there that would be usable, so to speak, I guess.
So So it's not like we just put new tires on it last year, or
No,
it's got a new rear end, or, you know, its cab is rust-free or anything like that?
Oh, that's not the case. Quite frankly, it is sitting in the garage right now because it cannot pass inspection.
It's taking up space.
Yes.
Well, actually, that raises a good point, because vehicles after 19, when you're saying inspections, you're not saying emissions, because any
Well,
vehicle
emissions,
prior.
that's
well,
one thing it's not passing is emissions, but it's part of the
But any
annual.
vehicle prior to 1996 is not required to pass emissions anymore.
Well, to get our sticker, yes, it does. It needs a complete exhaust system, among other things.
So it's a safety issue.
Yes. Everything from, you know, the bed is, we've done just about all the Band-Aid fixes on the bed due to, you know, rotting metal. I think last year, I forget how much we put into it, probably in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $4,000 just in trying to patch and weld up replacement areas for the bed, you name it, all the way through the truck. It's been, that's our boat, I should say.
Okay. I get back to, I recommend favorable action on Article 11.
Second.
Do we have a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
One more. Okay, Article 12.
Now,
Are we gonna potentially get any grant money on that, just as an aside?
What, on the truck?
It says in here.
We put it in, that's standard warrant language, just in case. One never knows.
Well, that's why I asked.
Yeah. We don't want to be precluded if something comes up, but. Next would be Article 12, and then Ben is done for the night.
okay. Article 12, funding a new water enterprise capital account from surplus water enterprise capital funds.
This is just using up the remaining borrowing monies from the, what was the name of the tank, the water tank?
That was the High Street.
The High Street water tank. We borrowed it. It was very specific for that purpose in the town meeting language. However, when you have surplus funds for a capital account like this, you can't spend it for anything but another purpose, another capital purpose that would be of a similar length. So basically, we're renaming the account so the funds could be expended for other capital purposes.
And what's the intent of the other capital purchase?
It would be the reconnection of the section of water main up Hecla Street where it crosses the West River. Last summer, we became aware of a leak in that particular section of pipe underneath the river. And so at that point, once we had it identified that that was the problem, we basically went in and shut off that portion of the feed that goes to the east side of town. So right now, we currently have one feed that goes to that area of town all the way up East Street. So the intent is to use the remaining monies to do a new water main crossing over the river. The current one right now is under the river, and provide that loop that is really needed to keep that area of town in service. Because in the event of could be anything, contamination, problems with the main, construction. If we have to shut down, let's say the water main that comes over, I think it comes over Henry Street to like Blackstone Street, it shuts off that whole eastern side of town. So they will have no water. So this is a secondary loop to provide service to that side of town.
And what's the intended cost of that project?
We are anticipating, I have a proposal to do the design, permitting, and bid documents, and I want to say we were in the neighborhood of the $150,000 for the water main construction. The water main, like, from Old Elmdale Road, and then the aerial crossing over the river.
With the remaining funds of 60-something thousand. Is that enough to do the other project on North Main Street, a section of that? Would that be the next priority? That section of North Main by Hannaford that's had leaks? Or is that not the next in the priority?
Actually, the next priority would be North and South Main Street, although the amount of money we're talking about is nowhere near what's available in this, or remaining in this fund. We're talking probably in the order of magnitude of $3 or $4 million, to do, because that'd be a full-blown water main project. Probably talking, I want to say maybe 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet. So we'd be talking a full-blown water main improvement project, which would require a lot more funding for both design and construction, primarily construction.
And are we, not to get off, but knowing, we've had issues with that, and knowing that the state's coming in and paving that road, are we at least talking about doing that before the state comes in and paves this road?
It really comes down to a function of funding. And at the present time, other than town funding, which we know there is none, our only shot is to keep applying for SRF funding.
And what's the current timetable schedule for redoing 122?
Right now, we're still technically in the 25% stage. We're waiting on right-of-way to approve the right-of-way plan so we can officially say we're in 75%, or we're moving towards 75%. We're kind of at a standstill until that happens. Once that happens, we can have our design public hearing, which will allow us to continue on addressing the comments and really moving forward.
I'm talking about the rebuilding of the road itself.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They are supposed to revisit that in May, so assuming that that happens, we could probably schedule, well, assuming that they provide comments to the district, 8 weeks from that point, we could schedule a public hearing, and then we can officially move forward to 75%. We'd still have to go to 100% and plans, PS&E level drawing, so we're easily a year and a half to having design plans. And
well,
then
that goes by very fast, because if we don't, and redoing the water line would be our responsibility.
Correct.
You wouldn't want to do that after they rebuild the road.
Correct.
Exactly, so, I mean, I would anticipate then, I personally would like to see a proposal to come forward with, I mean, this main is
Oh, yeah, that's
bad as
a
it is,
problematic
then we need a proposal to
portion
have
of the
that
main.
main presented to the town prior to the state paving 122, because once the state paves 122,
It's ours.
the road reverts to the town, and then it's our responsibility. I mean, that's just ludicrous. Because we're gonna have to tear up 122, and it potentially could be within 5 years of them paving.
Without a doubt. Yep. I mean, I believe it's approximately a 100-year-old water main that's in the center of town. Problematic. It does leak.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I know it's been leaking, especially on North Main Street.
Yep.
We've had some.
And even last year, we had, I think, the night of a Selectmen's meeting, we had a pretty good break right up on Douglas Street, opposite of Hunter, and it's essentially the same main.
Yeah.
It just comes down to funding, getting the funds to do it.
On a
It's not that I
related
don't
issue
wanna
with
get it
state
done.
funding, I don't think you have to worry about this, the paving being done imminently. It's not even scheduled on the,
It's not, it's on the tip, it's not programmed.
Yeah.
But once we can get to 75%, we can actually open up, real discussions with CMRPC and actually getting that program for a particular year. The only other obstacle, which I don't think it's a big obstacle, I think we have a solution for it, is the anticipated cost of the 122 project. Given the annual allotment through CMRPC, we could easily gobble up, 80% of their annual allotment just to
About
fund that
70%.
project. 70%. It's a large amount, so most likely we're gonna approach it as 2 segments, which will make it that much more palatable to get it programmed. But, realistically, 5 years out, I think, is an early start for construction, if we're lucky.
Well, right, and I think, and this goes back to was it our last meeting and the meeting before that, where the board needs to sit down and we need to put, pull out a piece of paper and put the 3, the 5, the 10-year plan on where we're at, because we don't wanna see ourselves in the situation, where we have the state coming in and in a phased project or at all one swoop coming in and paving this road, and then we're coming in within 5 years of that time frame, no matter how this plays out, and tearing up a section of that road.
Right.
That's just poor planning on our part that we should absolutely avoid.
Right. And I can tell you, part of the remaining money that's under contract right now, under that current fund, is going towards the update of our water model. Historically, has been based on a hydraulic capacity, so any improvements that were recommended in that master plan had to do with increasing hydraulic capacity. But what they're doing now that we have both of the tanks on, the new water mains, of course, the new well is going to be factored in there, and the new water mains there, is they're evaluating the system based on historical data, materials, break history, so on and so forth. So it's pulling in a lot of asset management related information, institutional knowledge, that they'll factor into their model. So what we'll have is we'll have recommendations in the water master plan that will include not just hydraulic improvements, but new or improvements to the system from an asset management perspective, which means getting rid of the 100-year-old pipe, upgrading it to something more modern, less chance of breakage, so on and so forth. So it's going to take all that information in.
Yeah, I made a motion for favorable action, Article 12.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Did you get that, Peter?
Got it,
Second.
thank you, yep, got it, thank you.
Can I just make an aside before you move on? Because of the term phase project was used, and in a sense, we are splitting up the project. Federal government will not pay for phased projects. So we have to sell this as 2 projects each.
Okay,
They can stand on their own.
okay.
And if we split right between North Main Street and South Main Street, I think they can.
Yeah. Tell them that's where the Mason-Dixon line goes through and.
Well, I mean, they each have their own issues, they have their own reasons. It can be, in other words, you can't say it doesn't make sense to do this project and not this project. They can each stand on their own for their own reasons.
We'll go back to Article 1.
Yes, please. Back to Article 1. Yeah, then. Thanks, Ben.
Night.
Yes? It was just
Article 1,
Okay, Article 1. Do we have any reports?
please take no action.
No action at this point?
I don't know, are you gonna have anything from the Cable Review Committee?
At this point, we don't
I
have anything.
thought that they were in,
Charter review.
Charter
No,
Committee.
no,
thank you,
Okay.
Chart.
no.
Okay, so motion that the board take no action for Article 1.
So moved.
Second.
There's no action.
There's no
What-
action to take.
What action would
Right.
you take on the report?
We're just
We're
gonna
just
put
passing it
NA.
over.
Just
Yeah.
Article 2, fiscal year 11 intra-departmental transfers.
Do we want to go line by line, or how would we like to do it, Madam Chair?
Is it necessary to go line by line?
I guess I have a question.
Sure.
The car wasn't insured?
It wasn't sure. But we're getting
It's
$8,600 for it. That's what we're getting. We're getting its residual value. That's what we're getting,
So you have
and,
to buy a new one.
right. The additional 18,000 is to buy the new one. So it's being funded from 2 areas. Anything new that we buy, we now insure going forward for replacement value, but you can't do it on existing vehicles.
Okay. Motion to recommend favorable action on Article 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So Article 3, page 4, prior year bills. This is the a motion to pass over? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So Article 4, town budget.
Wow, there was a lot of articles.
This amount is essentially going to be what you will vote. We anticipate there may be a few changes between the unclassified line and the education line, because the school committee is having their public hearing for the budget tomorrow, just before the finance committee meeting. So, in the end, you'll be voting a budget of $36,086,285. There'll just be a little bit of movement perhaps between the line.
Is there a chance that because the amount that the school committee was looking forward to was not the amount that was in the budget?
Yes, that's correct.
So how is that going to affect if they don't vote to accept this?
Well, the town manager's budget reflects the amount based on the revenue share formula. Under the revenue share formula, there's a couple of areas that can be worked with. One has to do with health insurance, and that's what they're looking at. Now, one of the things that we've agreed to do going forward that we did not do previously is, it used to be that all of the assessments were based on a single period in time, that being just before town meeting. However, then we have town meeting, then we have open enrollment, and enrollments change and things change at that particular point. So we have mutually agreed that we will then again redo the revenue share in the fall, once the state aid figures are final, once the open enrollments are final, and in the end, whether budgets go up or down will be based on those factors. So any adjustments we do in the fall will be based on that. But right now, they're making some personnel moves, and based on those moves, if the school committee so chooses, they would be able to pick up additional money for their budget from health insurance savings.
Possible health insurance savings.
Forecast as far as they are concerned, but once again, we will review them after the fact.
And is the town manager advising the board that that is a better way to handle the budget? I mean, because my question is that then, if you're gonna re-allot everything, you know, are we gonna be in a better position going into town meeting? Or are we gonna be looking for a larger percentage of budget to transfer over to cover out of stabilization in the fall? Because in theory, we're going above the budget.
No, in theory, the budget is, in theory, the budget is balanced. And there will be no stabilization fund transfer to fund the budget, now or in the fall.
The idea is we adjust the budget in the fall based on changes, real changes and real costs and real,
But there's an impact to that. I mean, if they've, you know,
well, yeah,
if you're moving
they're gonna.
forward with X employees expecting this, and then it doesn't turn out that the figures come to that, then there's an impact in the fall. And
Yeah.
with the school side, it's substantial, because now you're
It is.
into the year, and you got classes going on, and
They
you start
are,
laying off, and you're readjusting your classrooms.
they are well,
prepared
they
to
were
do that.
prepared for that. That is the agreement. Whether they benefit in the fall and they're able to increase their appropriation, or whether it goes the other way, they are prepared for that either way.
Or they present a warrant article asking for, you understand where, that's why I'm asking. Is this a smart way to approach it?
Everything's possible, but based on how it's been since we've installed the revenue share agreement, that action has never happened up to this point, and this is year 4.
But we've never also decided to reassess things in the fall based on how the numbers come out either.
Well,
That's why I'm asking, you know, how, because we're talking about doing something different than the way we've approached it in the past, so.
well, if you
We
want
have
to,
made adjustments in the fall before. based on changes that came through, I mean.
Right, having to, when that chapter 70 money
Yeah.
got changed because they got a federal grant. We reduced their budget by $170,000 because they were getting a grant for that, and they agreed to that because it was just a change in methodology.
I think the first year we were here also did that. I mean, there were,
I believe you're right.
the Senate budget came through late, after town meeting, and
Yeah.
we had to make cuts in the fall.
Right, on both sides.
I mean, we made the cuts on paper first and said, this is your budget now, we're going to memorialize this, we're gonna formalize this at the fall town meeting, and we did.
Absolutely.
Now, the idea here is we can go in the other direction if there are positive changes, but if there aren't, in fall town meeting, it doesn't happen.
Right.
This just recognizes that the budget is an evolving document as we get more information, because we don't get everything. We don't have everything in place at town meeting. Unfortunately, there are a lot of good things about town meeting, but the fact is you just get one shot at it. If this was a city council, well, you can adopt the budget on June 30th based on all of the information in place. We don't have that.
And if you look at A7 in Article 2, we're transferring $95,000 in from various accounts that are split between town and school into the insurance account, because what we're finding is we're having increasing enrollment. We don't see that prior to town meeting. So hopefully by doing this action and doing the review in the fall, we won't have to be doing these type of transfers in the future.
What's the root cause of the increase in enrollment?
More people coming on.
New employees or
No.
No.
spouses
Spouse.
lost their job, so the.
Well, that doesn't
employees-
necessarily, that can happen right away. That's a qualifying event, so.
Right.
Yeah,
If your spouse is on the town insurance, it's April, she loses her job, and you say, I need to come on the town, you can do that. But there's also open enrollment, and some people say, well, you know, there's been no qualifying event, but, you know, they've raised your premium, and now we don't get this, and we don't get this, and we don't get this.
so people switching from one plan to another.
Switching from one spouse onto the town plan because it's just a better deal.
This is,
Well, that's what I was talking
right,
about.
this is an example.
Well, that's not necessarily a qualifying, that's not because your spouse lost their job, it's just they
Well,
said.
it's still going to a
We've
better
made-
plan
yeah,
at a
we've
lower
made-
cost.
we've made-
It's a
Same
business
thing.
decision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's one reason we need plan design,
yeah.
because we're just becoming the sugar daddy for insurance.
I mean, transferring $95,000 is that's a big chunk of change.
Yes,
It is.
I mean, the fact that we saved 200,000, half that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't even enrolled yet, so we really don't know the impact of what's gonna happen
Right, but
with them moving around.
but when they do that, we'll have the impact in the fall, and either side of the budget will have to pay for that impact, rather than have transfers.
Motion to approve Article 4, to recommend favorable
Favorable action.
action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
No discussion,
I'm not gonna vote on this, because, again, as I stated before, the Board of Selectmen has abdicated its responsibility insofar as regards the budget. I had recent occasion to look at the candidates' tapes of last election, and Bruce was on it, Mike Pataski and Jay Cahill was on it. It's interesting what people say in those things. But it was commented to, at that time, I think Bruce made the comment, that the previous year, the board didn't do its responsibility regarding the budget, but I'm on it now, we're gonna do it now. Well, of course, we didn't do it now. And that has to change. The second thing is, just a comment, public safety. We don't have a public safety department. We have three things. We have a police department and a fire department and, what's the other, ambulance?
No,
But that's not
police,
a part-
fire, and the building inspectors, the inspections department.
Oh, that's public safety
That's
too?
under public safety.
See, I like things that actually describe something. I remember one year, the senior center put out a flyer that they were part of the public safety triad, along with the police department and the fire department and the senior center. So why shouldn't the DPW be part of that quadrad and so forth? So I think it's more helpful for people
Yeah.
to know what it is we're buying. I look at this, I don't know what,
Well,
Health and Human Services, what's in that?
Health and Human Services is the Board of Health, the Veterans Department, and a few other small budgets. And then you have Culture and Recreation, which is gonna be the next question, that's the that would be the library, Pout Pond, Recreation.
Okay, why
Now-
wouldn't the library be part of Human Services? You know, so,
Well, this is how, okay.
Well, then the big one, what's unclassified?
Yeah.
That's the biggest
One
one.
thing,
Yeah.
one thing you're missing is, this is the first year I actually put this grid in here.
Yeah.
You actually will have the full budget that actually has all the documentation.
yes, no,
on the
I know
back.
that, when we had a
But,
town meeting.
yeah, it's
But
just-
still, I like honesty and verbiage. You know, I don't
Right.
like a bill called the Dream Act.
Right. Well,
which
this is-
just illegal aliens, or prevailing wage, when it's a mandated wage and so forth. Say what it is, let
These are-
people know what
Okay.
it is we're funding.
These are the UMass classifications.
Yeah.
What's
that we put in.
unclassified then? Because it went up substantially,
Uh,
2.5
that would-
million.
Yeah, that's, the main driver for that is debt.
Yeah.
It's all your debt, and then the new high school's hitting this year. And, the $3.5 million, Rosenfield well site is also hitting there, even though it's offset by our revenue. So that drives that right through the roof.
Yeah.
But you will, the document that people will be looking at actually has them all broken down. That was the memorandum that went to the board last week. That's a one-pager. We also blow it out to a three-pager. This was just kind of put in there just as an afterthought, just to make it easier for some people who might not want to turn to the other pages.
So,
Ready for the
So,
vote?
vote,
Second?
do we have a second? And so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Carrie, did you vote? Oh, sorry.
oh, yes.
Okay. Article 5, revolving fund accounts.
Motion for affirmative action.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not to be confused with the federal affirmative action program, having nothing to do with it.
First thought.
We already did.
We did 6, we did 7. Article 8, ambulance division budget, the enterprise fund.
Motion to recommend favorable action on Article 8.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 9, community access television budget.
Now, this one is just on his budget. This is
That's
outside
correct.
of the,
That's the operating and the small cap stuff that he funds every year.
but within that small cap, though, some of the things that were part of his capital plan were actually covered within this. Where was that?
But that's not what he's funding through 13.
Where's that little list thing he gave us?
Are you talking about Article 13, Carrie?
Hold on. 13,
Purchase of the cable peg access equipment? It's at the bottom.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and, right, I just,
Right.
right. But if you look at that little list he gave us, the whole list totals more than 111, because part of that list is funded in that other article. I don't know where that little list is he gave us.
It's part of our read file, wasn't it?
Is that where it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew I saw it recently, so. So just so you're all aware of that, that list is not completely covered in Article 13. Part of it's in Article 9. Motion to recommend favorable action on Article 9.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
No.
Article 10 is done, Article 11 is done, Article 12, so Article 13, funding appropriation for the purchase of cable peg access equipment.
Motion to recommend favorable action on Article 13.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Go. Sorry,
Four.
Peter. Sorry, Peter.
Just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Is that the discussion?
Yeah.
Do you want me to-
What's the dollar amount? 110, 111?
$111,000.
$1,000. And we've got 437,000. We're gonna get another 80 or 90,000 for the year, regular revenue. We're gonna get $105,000 revenue. And meanwhile, there are departments that are starving and going hungry and going without things, and we can't buy a truck, a front-end loader, because we don't have the money or the borrowing capacity. And we call ourselves the chief executive officers of the town. It's really a sad situation. So take the vote.
Carrie, did you want to pull up the list first? Or not?
Well, I thought he was gonna ask about it, that's why I grabbed it.
Oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Article 14, acceptance of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 56, relative to National Guard members, military reservists deployed outside the U.S.
I have a grandson who's in the Air Force, just a, regular teenager, private or whatever he is. Do you have any idea how much they make? He went to,
He's
the
gonna
war
come
zone in
back rich.
Iraq. Well, he's spending it all, but it's unbelievable. I'm talking
Okay,
$3,000 a month. When I
It's
was in the
tax-free.
Army, yeah, he's a private.
Right, and it's tax-free, too.
Yeah. When I was in the Army, I was a second lieutenant. I got $400 a month. Privates, just a private was $78 a month. A private first class, no, private was $87 a month. Private first class was $92 a month. And then it went up from
How do you
there.
remember this stuff, Peter?
I'm
That's
Armenian.
ancient history.
I'm Armenian. I remember money.
I'll entertain a motion, the board recommend favorable action for Article 14.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Okay, nothing, I was just reading a part of the article. So, just for clarification, so we would grant it to only 4 individuals a year?
That is correct. Right now, we have checked, and currently, we don't have anybody who would apply right now. We don't have according to the assessor's clerk, who's very active and Uxbridge supports our troops, there's nobody currently that this would apply to. But we would just put it aside in case somebody does actually apply and fit the condition.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
No, you already
Oh,
made the
okay.
motion. You already made the
Okay.
motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Just trying to get.
Thank you for trying to do everything, Bruce, I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Article 15, acceptance of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 57, relative to seniors eligible for state circuit breaker tax credit.
You know, this, I've had a resident contact me on behalf of, several seniors who have, you know, Article 15 is, perplexing to them. They're concerned, I mean, and frankly, you know, I had a long discussion with David today. It is not, you know, my concern with Article 15 is that the complexity of it is, it's so, long and short of it, it is such an individualized situation on whether or not it will benefit you or could potentially limit your future circuit breaker. You know, it's on a case-by-case basis. It's not a, this is good for everyone, this is bad for everyone. That, you know, it's just important that the residents understand that there could be an impact if you apply for this, you know? And
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee that it's gonna help you, and there's a chance it could harm you depending on your income and your property values. You know, so it's one of those things that can cut both ways. And, you know, when it comes to individuals that at this time in the economy may so greatly rely on, you know, an extra $100 here or there, you know, we just need to caution, you know, how Article 15 may not be beneficial to everyone.
I'll entertain a motion, the board recommend favorable action for Article 15.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Article 16, amend the floodplain overlay district of the zoning bylaws, Article 8, Section 4-37.
What was the, where is it?
Article 16,
Section 4,
yeah,
Section
40-37.
40, 37.
I meant, sorry, 4-37.
Yeah.
You wanna be in Article 8? Section 4-37, well, actually,
Is it 4 or
there's a
400?
typo.
Is it
There's a
400?
4-37 and a 400-37, so there's a typo within the article.
Right.
Well, 447 is administration.
37.
437?
400, it's written here both ways, 437 and 437.
Should be 400.
437. Next time we do these, each page should have what section it is on it.
Tabs.
39, okay, 37. Permitted uses. So what's permitted
Who sponsored this anyway?
is conservation of water, plants, and wildlife. Now, what the heck does that mean? Where did this come from?
Yeah, we sponsored it. Where did it come from?
We did?
Yeah.
This is the long version of,
Yeah.
suggested by council for updating the new floodplain maps. The last ones were dated, what, 1983?
Correct. This came from the building.
I saw something
zoning
regarding upgrading of the maps,
Right.
but I don't remember seeing any
I
of
don't
this.
see all this
No,
language,
it
yeah.
started, the first draft, we did a very, very simple
It was
design.
very sparse, and this is a council, wanted the long version.
Why? Whose council?
Town
Council.
town council.
And who paid them for that?
You did.
Why?
This is a,
The long version was prepared by the building zoning enforcement officer and was forwarded to town council.
Which building zoning enforcement officer?
Started with Glen Hand.
Started with
Okay,
And then the planning board.
but Glenn is the enforcement officer, zoning enforcement officer, not the zoning origination officer.
Yes.
And the board approved this?
I don't
we
remember
approved it, when we-
allowing this to go on the article as written.
I don't either.
No, we didn't put this on the article like this. We authorized something different on the warrant article. We didn't authorize this.
Oh, they're gonna allow play areas. Isn't that nice? Boy, these wonderful people that write these laws, huh? And you can fish.
Yeah, fish. That is fishing.
I mean, it's really nice
Fishing
of
and play
them.
areas.
Oh, you can have a footpath. You can actually walk, with permission, of course. Is there a permit fee for walking? You have to submit a plan.
Bicycle,
A plan
horseback.
drawn by a engineer showing the footpath you're gonna take.
And you got bicycle and horse path.
Temporary non-residential structures used in connection with fishing, growing, harvesting, storage. It doesn't say hunting, though.
Yes, it did. I saw hunting somewhere.
Temporary non-residential structures used in connection with fishing, growing, harvesting, storage. But how about hunting structures? Remember that piece of board up at the 100-acre
Yeah.
lot?
Yep.
That was
You know
a
what,
frontage.
that was a blind,
Blind, right?
yeah. I don't know if that's allowed up there. We gotta check that out.
it's my understanding that these regulations weren't put together by just the building inspector. This was done through a number of towns who put it together.
That's very nice. Our existing bylaws
Yeah?
were not put forward by the building inspector, but by the Google, remember?
I mean, I know this may be a sticking point, but we didn't approve this article to be on the warrant like this. So how did it get on the warrant like this? I mean, when we approve a warrant article, isn't that why we have to see everything during the period so that we know what we're putting on?
I don't think we actually, and Mike, if you recall, jump right in.
I mean, what did we approve?
Now, as I recall, the discussion on this was that an article was going to be put forward. And then we were tasked with crafting the language. I don't think the board,
Who's the "we"?
We sponsored
Staff.
it.
Huh?
the
Town
staff
hall staff.
was tasked with actually putting the information
The only
together.
thing I have any recollection of is that the federal government produced a new map,
Right, and we
Yeah.
were
and
voting to put the
we
map
needed
on.
to adopt that new map.
Right.
Right.
There was nothing
About a
anywhere
bylaw change.
about a bylaw. And I don't remember, having the staff do,
Well, you have to change the bylaw because the existing bylaw references the old maps.
that's correct.
So the original construction that we had was very sparse because it just changed the maps. It changed the dates of the maps.
Okay,
Yes,
so what was wrong with that?
That's.
nothing's wrong with that. The map delineates
just
the
gonna
flood
consider
zones.
that. Did we send it to council?
Yeah.
Yes.
The council came back.
Town council agreed with the long version.
And who said we should send it to town council?
Excuse me?
We send the warrant to town council to be reviewed.
Yeah,
But how did
but
town council see that when we didn't see this language in the warrant? We signed the warrant.
What should have been sent to town council was, we're gonna, an article to adopt the new map. So,
The original version that went to council had the sparse,
Yeah, I think I wrote that, didn't I?
yeah. And then it came back, and when it came back,
Or did you?
I don't remember now. When it came back, council's recommendation was the longer
This one.
version.
Exactly.
Version.
And the board voted to include it as an article on March 14th.
they gotta watch that tape.
But we didn't
We were
vote to
voting on
include
the-
this. We
Right.
were
Voting on the
doing-
smaller, right.
Right on a map. Motion to pass over Article 16.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 17, amend the zoning bylaws appendix A, table of use regulations.
This would cover all larger structures in residential areas over a certain number of square feet,
This is
4,000.
Yeah,
The
this is the Blanchard
This
article.
is the Blanchard one,
Allowing
okay.
other uses for the Blanchard. And we've had various statements of interest, and we've held off from asking the board for another bite at the apple until this went through town meeting to see what would be allowable there. Because obviously, if we allow more uses there, we have a better likelihood of getting a better price and more interest.
Broader
Well, it
interest,
makes it
right.
more marketable.
But there are other older structures in that area that really may not be in imminent danger, but are impractical to use as houses in the long term because they're so large. If they have to remain just residential areas, they'll probably become rooming houses. So this gives some other alternatives. You could use it as that probably are better than a rooming house. Rooming houses tend to attract people that, maybe have social service needs, let's just put it that way. Retail stores, professional offices may be something that's more beneficial to the town and the neighborhoods they're in.
There are only 5 other structures, including the Blanchard, that would fit this criteria. At least as far as we are aware.
I'll entertain a motion to recommend favorable action for Article 17.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Can we just go back to Article 16 for a second?
Sure.
I would have no objection to the article if it just had the first paragraph. Because our existing bylaw already has a list of permitted uses. And what the first paragraph does, just get all the verbiage above the words permitted uses.
Gets us the map.
Gets us the map.
Yep.
So we're okay with the map, which is what we intended to do.
Mike, wasn't there some sort of requirement as the appropriate official for the notification of water course alteration?
For what?
The section down here.
There's a section down there that talks about the alteration of or relocation of a water course, and it assigns an appropriate official. I'm just recalling, I could have sworn that was something that the National Flood Insurance Program was requiring.
It certainly is a good idea to do that, but just about the maps, this can be cleaned up later. I'd like to at least see the maps adopted if the board wants to go in that direction.
Wow, it goes on and on. 2 pages.
Yes.
The whole purpose of this is for the flood insurance program. which subsidizes the cost of insuring homes that are built in the floodplain, which of course encourages people to build homes in the floodplain, paid for by those of us who have enough brains not to build a house in a floodplain.
Well, actually, with the redefining of the floodplain areas, they're making them larger, so more people have to apply for the floodplain, or if you get water, your insurance doesn't have to pay. It's not, this isn't gonna help you, it's gonna hurt you. Because homes, they're broadening.
It hurts hurts everybody.
Well, it hurts everybody
Because even
because-
if you, my house is 550 feet above sea level, 300 feet higher than the elevation here in downtown Uxbridge. And I have to pay extra to determine that I'm not in the floodplain.
Article 19, street acceptance Anthony's Way.
Is this one all set?
Yes.
Yep.
Motion for favorable action?
So,
The layout one, wait, which one is this one? This one's the
Anthony's
one
Way.
sponsored by us.
Correct.
correct.
So this is the one sponsored by you, that would be eminent domain.
Eminent domain.
So Peter made a motion, I seconded.
Okay.
Discussion? Carrie? No?
No discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Article 20, street acceptance Giacomo Way.
Now, why do we have 20 for Giacomo Way?
Giacomo.
And then 21, we have Anthony's Way and,
Because, look, it's a citizen's petition.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The board is sponsoring Articles 19 and 20, and those are broken out.
I still don't understand why we didn't take off 21 when we motioned, when we did 20,
It just,
19 and 20.
It's a placeholder.
yeah, because at that
For
point in time,
insurance. Mhm.
it was insurance basically for the residents, that if the board did not sponsor those two articles, they wouldn't have a chance to be on the warrant for town meeting.
I understand that, but the citizens could have withdrawn their petition when we sponsored it.
You'd have to have every petitioner sign.
Yeah,
To have withdrawn.
right.
So entertain a motion for favorable action on Article 20, street acceptance of Giacomo Way.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm sorry, Carrie, did you?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Pass over Article 21. Article 22, amend Section 6, the budget of the Uxbridge
We have
Home.
to do a motion for Passover, don't we?
Yes.
Sorry.
Motion to pass over Article 21.
I would
Second.
expect that the moderator would rule it out of order if it's already been done.
Right.
Right, but at least it'll be
Right, yes.
printed.
Is there a second?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 22, amend Section 6, the budget of the Uxbridge Home Rule Charter. Motion to pass over. Right?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? You pass over.
Yeah, why are we passing over this one?
Read the commentary.
Town council's the opinion
It's
the
not
article is written.
constitutional.
Okay.
It won't pass the AG's muster.
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Article 23,
I'm sorry,
No.
did we have a motion on 22 to pass over?
Make a motion to pass over Article 23.
Second?
22, I mean.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Article 23, amend the general bylaws to reduce the Council on Aging Board from 11 to 7 members.
still don't understand why we're in charter review that they're doing this.
Why, what?
Say that again?
Isn't this part of the charter also?
Yeah, they realized
It
they need to
is,
go there
but-
too, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Town meeting occurred before the charter review.
No, it didn't.
Well, right
The
now,
charter
at this
would just
point in
make a
time.
the charter
Yeah.
review committee would
Right.
just make a recommendation
Exactly.
that would have to be done at town meeting warrant anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Make a recommendation favorable action of Article 23.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Peter?
Peter?
I don't have an opinion. No.
No? Is that no?
No, not a no.
What do you
An
say?
abstain?
I'll abstain.
Abstention. Article
If the problem is they can't get a quorum, then the solution is to get rid of the members who aren't showing up. That's not an argument for reducing the number of committee members, right? If there's a reason to reduce the committee members, I'll hear it. But the fact that people aren't showing up, that's a function of the people who we appoint.
Article 24, high school entry slope grade construction easement.
This is for that piece of property that we have the license agreement on. And I think there's a difference between two of the experts that we've hired. Pat is of the more conservative opinion. The license says we have the right to enter and it's perpetual, but it can be withdrawn by the gentleman that gave it to us. I don't see that happening anytime soon with, I think the notice period is 6 months, at which time we would have to restore it to its previous position. He thinks, the town should take it so that we own it and there'll never be a problem. Leslie Fanger is of the opinion that what we have is good enough, and I tend to agree with her because having had the conversations with the gentleman, I certainly had very good faith, good intentions towards the town, and, at some level, this is confrontational.
Well, it's
And
just a
if it
kick in
ever-
the teeth. We don't trust you. You
Yeah.
need to let us do this,
And
no fee, and
If somewhere
We think
down
you're
the
allowed.
road, somewhere down the road, this is necessary with a subsequent owner, say, it's not that difficult to then put it on the next agenda. So, based on the grace he's shown and the good faith he's shown in us, I think we should pass it over.
Motion to pass over Article 24.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're done with the warrant.
Yeah, because we already did 25.
So, back to the agenda, we have letter D, street acceptance vote to lay out, and make public ways. We covered those, they're not,
No, tonight you need to vote to lay it
to vote
out.
to lay them out, okay.
In our packet, what was the abutter notification?
For the used car license, Class 2 license.
No,
Oh,
well, you had a legal
no.
notice for that, but there was also a notification sent to
Yeah.
the abutters because the BOS policy and procedures, street acceptance checklist requires that the abutters be notified that
Oh, okay.
the selectmen are going to lay out or vote to lay out that street procedure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll entertain a motion that the board lay out and make public way Giacomo Way and Anthony's Way.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And I'll entertain a motion that the board lay out and make public way Lee Street and Glen Street.
We already
We did that one, sorry. Done? I entertain a motion that the board lay out and make public way Deerview Lane and Wildlife Drive.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And do we need to include,
And we already
Just
addressed the fees.
the
so we're
fees
all
are
set
done,
there.
okay, all right.
That's
Okay.
done.
Member issues. I was gonna share Jay's, but if you have one, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, go. I received an email from, Cable, attorney, Bill August. He put that forward as he's requesting, to come in and present to the board. And I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, the language he used, which I believe is the idea of reconfiguring the cable as a nonprofit, but he didn't use that language.
Access Corp?
Thank you, an
Mhm.
access corp, thank you, yes. He wants to present the idea of an access corp before the board. When we were in the communication and negotiations with Charter, several times that was kind of brought up at the table, but it was always, you know, it wasn't part of the discussion. I honestly, I personally think it's something I would like to hear about. I don't know, I reviewed the marching orders of the Cable Advisory Committee. I think it's something that, under one of the categories, and I apologize for not having it in front of me, but I think where, you know, they would have potential to provide us their input, whether we have to take their recommendation or not. I think that that's up to our discretion, but I think that it's something that we should run by them. It may be best solved in having them here at the same time instead of pay to have him present two presentations. Just have them come before and hear the same thing and get their input at that same meeting.
What would you like to know about Access Corporation?
More about it?
What do you want to know? Ask me a question.
Well, because, I mean,
It's not complicated, it's extremely simple.
I understand that, but the last time it was put forward as having cable become a corporation, there was legal issues that were raised.
The legal issue was raised because Alan Klepper wanted to do something illegal, which is to pay this nonprofit organization in advance for services, which is clearly against the law. And he was told that by the Attorney General. You can't do that.
Okay, so,
But what do you think we're gonna gain by having another entity? The town of Uxbridge is a nonprofit organization. So what is gained by having another entity?
it's not, I don't look at it as another entity, I look at it as a different entity. I mean, there's the continual dispute of whether or not the cable funds, you know, how does the municipal side handle it? Well, then I see it very clearly. Let's remove it as a municipal branch of government and have it on its own as a nonprofit, separate. Then that way it's case closed, it has its own board of directors, it, you know, it handles itself.
It's not closed because we are still a
How is it not?
licensing agency.
Well,
And
we're tied in that,
who
but other towns
appoints
do
the
it.
board of directors?
That would then be the nonprofit.
Which is what? Which are half a dozen people, and they control the whole thing. So how does that benefit the subscribers? They answer to no one.
Well, no, they don't answer to no, well, in that case, it doesn't go before town meeting, and you have a bunch of individuals who don't even pay into cable, making a determination of how cable funds are spent.
When you have that kind of a group, they answer to no one.
Okay, I didn't bring this,
We need to
this is
gather
the whole
some-
reason why I feel that, you know, this was the request from him, I forwarded on to the board. I personally would like to, you know, have him come before.
And who's gonna pay him?
Well, let's gather some information.
Right.
Who's gonna pay him?
Let's gather some information first, and then.
What information do you wanna gather?
Well, let's see what Carrie's interest is, and we'll gather some information and place it in the read file and see if you want to go forward.
Right.
And in the meantime, you can find out what you've read and so forth and share that, right?
Would you like to see the original bylaws of that nonprofit that was set up last time?
Only to the extent that those were something that we could work off now, if there was an issue that was identified. I mean, you don't wanna reinvent the wheel, but I also don't wanna look at something that's obsolete and we wouldn't use either.
You want to have something that's new that you can't use.
No, I don't wanna have anything that I can't use.
That's all right, that's all right, do whatever you
We'll
want.
gather something, and that way you can bring the rest of the board up to speed and get them
So are we gonna hire this lawyer or not?
No, you're gonna hire Carrie.
Well, I want to answer to my question. Are we going to hire this lawyer who sold us down the river to
I
come and...
I think they need more information
Yeah, we need more
before they
information before you make a
before they
decision.
go any further. Carrie just presented that tonight. It's a good thought, and I think
But
everybody
we
needs.
have a file that's this thick. And if you don't learn the history of the mistakes of the past, you're going to repeat them again.
We can compile the information from
Right.
that file at
I'll
no
look at the file,
cost.
Peter.
Just,
Thank you,
Good
Carrie.
idea,
Thank you, Carrie.
yes.
good idea.
Right.
So, again, in Jay's absence, one of the, he had mentioned under member issues, and quoting his email, I think it's very important that we capture and understand the critical day-to-day responsibilities that the town manager executes on so that we can create a mitigation plan in the event we do not have a replacement at the time of Mike's departure. I ask that the board support a request to Mike to start documenting and sharing this with us.
Day-to-day activities.
All we have to do is read the charter,
Responsibilities. Mhm.
and it outlines his responsibilities.
And the town manager is not an operating department. You know, when they first came up with this charter business, the selectmen should not be involved in the day-to-day operation of the town.
Correct.
Selectmen have never been involved in the day-to-day operation of the town. The police department is run by a full-time professional chief. Same with the fire department. The school department is completely separate. The assessors, the Board of Health, the planning board, the building inspector, electrical inspector, all of those people have statutory rules that govern their activity. The town manager is a coordinating and an oversight agency.
So how about we table this one until Jay comes back and is in
That's a
meeting
good
with us?
idea.
Alrighty then. Any other member issues?
Yes, on the resumes. Peter had the file out earlier, and I guess where there was a miscommunication, because Peter and I were both under the impression that each resume was gonna be numbered, so that when we went through these, but that wasn't done, so I guess I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page on what we're expected to do with these,
Okay.
and what is the date that, so that we stay on that.
The idea is if we number them, we
Closing
can
date
each
is
go
May
through
12th.
them.
Right.
Yeah, I'll
Right,
just
And
I
make a
understand they're
list
May
of the
12th,
the numbers, you know, I like number 10, number 15, number 25, and we can compare those numbers and then look at them in detail.
Right, but last time,
Can't we just put numbers on them?
I'm just gonna put the numbers on them. I have no problem numbering them for you.
but how
That's fine.
many, I mean, before, the last time we went through this process, the goal was, you know, somewhere around the number 10 is how many we plan to interview. That's what we were trying to get.
Oh, you're talking about. how many
So
we're gonna
in
look at.
doing this, you know, you're whittling it down and, you know, I don't even know whether we'll be, you know, we could all come back and say, no, there's only 3 we want to interview, or there's, you know, 12 we want to interview, we're locked on that. But the idea was somewhere around the number 10.
Okay,
was
but
the
in
number.
addition
So
to that,
is
you
that
want
what we're
each,
gonna follow?
but in addition to
haven't-
that, you want each resume numbered.
So we can make reference to it.
Right, so we're not
Number
referring by
25.
name, we're
Right.
referring by number.
Exactly.
Right,
Yep.
right, exactly. So you would,
Number them.
Correct, like, so Peter would say, you know, I liked 122 and 55, or,
Right.
What I had put before the board is that we would start on May 9th, an executive session to discuss identifying our qualified candidates. Now, if we want to go ahead and
why would we do that
start-
and we're not even closed yet? That's my concern. I guess that's why I'm raising this, is because, I mean, in my you know, I know myself personally. I mean, yes, there's some you just look at and you
Right.
just know, okay?
Right.
But then those other group,
Right.
I will not, until they all come in, I will
Right.
not sit down and look at those.
So then on May 23rd is when I have scheduled that we would review the additional resumes, and then at that point,
So what are we
create a
gonna do
final
on the
list of
9th?
qualified candidates.
But why would we do anything on the 9th then, because we don't have the final list?
Well, if there's anyone that we want to talk about that we do think is qualified or not, we don't have to.
I go through them.
So we don't have
I
to.
look at, and I put my initials, so if you look at it, you'll know that I've looked at it, I've seen it. And, you know, but I haven't made an indication of whether I would look at it or not. Most of them are throwaways.
Well, that's what we can do then on the 9th, is just eliminate them, right? It'll be a process
But I
of
don't-
elimination.
But I guess
At
that's
that
my
point.
concern. I mean, yeah, there's an amount to eliminate, but that's not, I mean, when you're getting into a smaller group there, I think that until all the resumes are here, I think it's premature to officially, as a group, eliminate any, until the closing date is over. Now, if we were, you know, I mean, in the past, when I was a recruiter, when I knew I had 5 positions to fill, yes, you can go on a rolling basis because you're filling multiple positions, but we're only filling 1 position here. So I think it's premature to start eliminating anyone until the whole pool is complete.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up now, though, because when I brought out this timeline and proposed it to the board, and I was asking for feedback on everything, you know, no one gave me specific feedback
Well, I
on
told you
what
I
I'd done.
didn't think we should look at them until
So-
that point.
But again, and on the whole process, so if that's how the board agrees that we want to do it, maybe what we'll do on the 5th is actually go through this timeline and fine tune it and go through the
5th?
other, and the 9th, sorry,
Okay.
the 9th. And go through and see the other, you know, the other details that I had pulled out, because I know there was also discussion of who should be doing the interviewing and in what capacity, and you had mentioned what had been done previously and things like that, so we do need to vet the entire process out.
Right. Now, that may be something to do on the 9th, but I just want to
Yeah, that's
caution
what I'm
on.
saying. Right, okay. In the meantime, we'll be numbering. Any other member issues? As it is 9:56. No? No? Bruce, no? Okay. Town manager update?
The only item I really want to discuss, it should probably be an executive session, and that's, you're aware of it tomorrow.
Okay. So do we have, entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss firefighter union negotiation update and town manager activities status with no further business?
Well, you've got 2 items here. Are they both
Right.
executive session?
Yes, they are.
On what basis?
What's the basis of the second one?
The basis of the second one is that it is personnel-based and that should be done in executive session.
It's not a question of personnel, that's not an exception. You can
Right.
read the list of exceptions.
And personnel is not an exception.
Personnel actions is not an exception?
No.
So, I guess I don't understand the pushback on being able to discuss this in executive session. The reason that I wanted to have it in executive session is to be able to have the board aware of certain issues so that we, you know, then talk to Mike about concerns with them, and that it not be, you know,
But that's not
that
your,
it not be publicly.
But that's not your call. We violated open meeting law by not officially informing him of the situation. He has to have 48 hours notice.
Only
And
in
then
certain-
it's his
for what?
decision whether we go into executive session, not ours.
What did you say, Peter?
48 hours notice under what provision?
Under MGL, hold on, I'll pull it up for you. It falls under open meeting law on what qualifies for executive session. MGL section 30, MGL 39, section 23.
Okay, which says,
Hold on, it's coming out. All meetings shall be public. No executive session shall be held until the body has first convened and open. Hold on. Nothing except the limitation convened in this section shall be construed to prevent the governmental body from holding an executive session. Executive sessions may be held only for the following reasons: to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than the professional competence.
right?
Two, to be present at such executive session during discussions or considerations which involve that individual. To have counsel or representative of his zone choosing, present, and attending for the purpose of advising the individual and not for the purposes of action or participation in said. And under the reputation and character, must be given at least 48 hours prior to the proposed executive session, must be notified in writing. Notification may be waived upon agreement of the parties. Governmental bodies shall be held only, bodies shall hold an open meeting if the individual involved requests that the meeting be open. So it's his decision.
It's up to Mike if he wants it,
Up to
an
you.
open session.
But he hasn't been notified 48 hours in advance of what the issue is.
Waive that.
Well,
So
it's
yes,
his
it's
decision
his
to, it's
decision
yours.
to waive that.
Okay.
You know, I'm willing to discuss it here. I mean, I don't think I did anything wrong, and, you know, I don't wanna hide anything. I mean, I think what your concern was, you received a report that I was destroying documents, but I'm simply cleaning up my office. I mean, I've been asked, I have a date certain to leave, and as you all know, my office was, I never threw anything out. So I'm starting to get rid of things. I don't think I threw out anything that was not already somewhere in another file, maybe several copies, or had any, in any way compromised the town.
Why don't we start by hearing the charge? What is the
Yeah,
charge?
what's the,
Exactly.
I don't see them as charges, and I guess that's where I feel that there's been a complete misinterpretation on behalf of some of the board members of what I was trying to achieve, in that I was lumping together concerns, some of which, and I'll read my email, and Mike and I spoke about this today.
We did at length.
And that I assured him, and I did not want to do this in a public forum, because I'm not putting him on trial. There is a concern or any action. It was my interest to get the input from the board of, these are things that are going on.
But
How do you
tell
think
us
we
what
should
they
do it?
are.
Okay, emails. Tracy still does not have access to Mike's emails. It's been over a month since he was asked for her to have access to it, and he said she did. So things could be slipping through the cracks that we have no knowledge of.
okay, so specifically, what do you mean by access to his emails? I guess
Access
I
to his
don't
computer. She doesn't have access to his computer, so when he was on vacation,
Sure she does. I mean, first of all, why,
just a minute,
Let's go back
Tracy,
for a
do you have
second.
access to his computer?
I did not have access until when I called Mike, the other day, when he was away, to access, information regarding to the school project that was in limbo that we needed to find out the
Okay.
details for.
Okay,
So that was a
so-
concern, and it was something that had lingered for over a
but as
month.
soon as she asked for it, he provided her access.
She had asked for it previously as well.
Asked for
Well, I think
specific,
it was stated at one of those selectmen meetings that he provided.
but provide what type of access?
Password to be able to get on
Yeah.
to.
He shouldn't have to. We have an administrator. The administrator at any time has access to every single email. You should not give your
Clifton use
password.
an administrative
Clifton
password.
an administrator to every account can override
He can
every single.
override it.
Yes.
He can't just go in at
He
will.
can't just give you
He
a
can
password.
override it
Yeah.
and change it, but he can't go in at will.
No, he can go in and view everything. Yes, the
Right, but
administrators have views to
is
everything.
that what we're paying him for then, to be able to go in and read
Well-
the emails? I guess that's, you know.
Honestly,
Well,
I don't have
also, but-
Tracy's password, and I've never asked for
I
it.
was gonna ask you
I-
that, if you had.
No, nor do I have David's. I mean,
Right, that isn't a reasonable request to have
But it's,
emails.
but, you know, there are other instances where there are people that work within the town hall that do share emails. And I guess my concern was strictly that if there's something that's slipping through the cracks that we as a board have no knowledge of, that we need to take action on. That's it.
Well, but
Well,
that's
period.
a
But
hypothetical.
that's-
If
right.
there is something slipping through the cracks, there could be possibly things slipping through the cracks. They slip through all the time. I mean, that's how the Mercedes bends.
Exactly.
But I'd like to hear some specific thing that you can say at this late date, gee, this is a problem and we have to fix it.
I don't know of a specific email because we,
Okay, then there is an, I
Okay,
mean, it's a situation
fine.
where somebody, if there's a specific situation where something fell through, that's one thing, but I agree, talking about a hypothetical, that's where,
it's not as much a hypothetical as the request had been made previously twice to the town manager to provide her with the information. And it
and I don't
wasn't
feel it was a
until,
reasonable request for her to ask.
but it wasn't provided to her. So, and you never mentioned at the time that Mike shouldn't provide his
No,
information
you
to
shouldn't provide
her.
you shouldn't give your password to anyone.
Then
That's
why
why
didn't
we
you
even
speak
have to
up-
change our
But
password.
why didn't you speak up beforehand? You never spoke up
Because I
beforehand.
never knew it was in, I never knew she asked for it.
We had a conversation and it was in member issues that we were discussing it with him.
What,
I
that she
remember that.
has
I
access to
recall
things.
that,
I
yeah.
didn't recall it as having
Yeah.
access to his computer to the extent of having his password to read his emails. No, I did not interpret it as that.
Well, that's
Now,
what
does
the
she have a
request
key to
was.
his office? Yes, and so therefore, as his assistant, if something came up and she needed to get into his office,
Okay, well,
that's one thing.
You were
But
lacking the
having
complete
email-
information, that's what the request was. Okay, the second thing, is the throwing out of documents. So sometime during the week before his vacation, Mike, as you admitted, was going through files and cleaning them out. And according to the public record statute, all of his emails and public documents are a public record and cannot be destroyed as a matter of law. And now the question obviously has come about if there were second, triple, quadruple duplicates of things that you were doing, or that were being disposed of. You know, was a question of that,
Yeah. Believe
and that's what we
everything
spoke
else.
about.
Some time ago, the janitor he had an operation, or he was sick or something.
Yeah,
So I volunteered to come in and,
Oh, yeah.
wheel the carts out.
right.
And there were 4 big containers
Mm-hmm.
full of documents going to the trash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we didn't clean out all the paper we generate on a regular basis, we would be crushed by the weight of the paper.
Oh, I understand that, Peter. I understand that. It's not a question of going through and cleaning things out. It was a matter of the fact of, is everything that's being thrown out also then filed? Or are they multiple things that are being thrown out?
Well, that's an appropriate question for you to ask him, to make sure.
And that's
But
what we
the way
talked
it- the way
about.
it
That's what
was-
we talked about today.
Today,
Yes.
but your email, the tenor of your email was completely
there
different.
was, right.
It was, gee, things are being done, and we gotta get, documents are being thrown away as though, I asked, maybe he's found the secret plans to invade Saskatchewan and thrown them out, and we're gonna be in big trouble, because we can't invade Saskatchewan anymore. I could leave here tonight and rob a bank. I mean, I have that capability. Well, I don't really.
Oh, you finally admitted it.
Now that you're on tape.
But you don't make plans because I'm capable of doing something, I mean, gee whiz. What else?
The second thing was unprofessional statements, and we spoke about this today as well. And in regard to this, it's a dichotomy, and I understand that Mike is in a very difficult situation, and I've been in this situation before, but not in a public office. In that, yes, you are going to be leaving, yes, you do have an end date to your contract, but it's a matter of how that information is delivered and shared to people. You know, I'll use my children as example of how, when I speak to them, it's your tone of voice. And that's what we talked about, of, you know, there's no expectation that you put on a happy face, and I wouldn't expect that. This is very uncomfortable and difficult. So
what's the issue then?
the issue is that there were comments that his tenor that was used prior.
Were you present when they were made?
I was not, but I've spoken to people, I can't mention now because they're not here,
Then
where
until
there
they
has had to
come-
been damage control.
My concern is that those individuals then need to come before the board and give us their statements directly, because getting it from them to you, to us, it's hearsay. I'd
Do you
rather
feel
hear
that that's
directly
necessary,
from
Ms.
them, and if they
I
have a
don't,
concern
I
with it.
mean, if you want to do that, fine, but I certainly take the admonition to heart that, you know, I guess, especially shortly after the vote, I was, well, I was taking it hard, and maybe I showed it more than I should, and that's, she's correct, that's not professional. I have a job to do, and I'll continue to do the job until my last day, and I will, if not put on a cheery face, keep my mouth shut.
You know, I appreciate you saying that. I think that, you know, given what the board has put you through, the mere fact that you come to work every day, I think is admirable, because this has not played out well.
I think it was something like, you know, I said something, it was someone who was coming on, not the gentleman we saw today, but, you know, he said something, I think, as I recall it, I look forward to working with you, and I said, well, you're not gonna be working with me for very long. You know, I'm leaving soon.
Okay, that's a fair statement.
Well,
I was during an interview.
Yeah, but that's still a fair
it
statement.
wasn't during an interview, but it was sort of,
How is that not a fair statement?
I will keep my mouth shut. I should have just said, you know, thank you.
I mean, in all fairness, you were let go without a clear reason and without a performance evaluation being done.
Gary, are you missing the fact that it's a question of being professional in stating it? And that's what Mike has already,
I've acknowledged that I've accepted it, and I won't do it again.
Right, I understand that, but,
So,
you know,
let's
I
move
mean,
on.
but you've made an issue out of, like, whatever he said was absolutely tantamount and out of line. And, you know, there's a level that I think as a board, we have to accept that the way that this was handled as a board was unprofessional. You know, so, you know,
If
if
I
you're
were
gonna
coming
throw
to
stones,
Uxbridge and
expect to have
applied for a
stones
job,
to be
and
thrown
I
back.
was interviewed by Mike, and he wanted to hire me,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't tell me that he wasn't going to be here, because as the employer is evaluating me, I'm evaluating who I'm
course.
going to be worked for.
Of course.
You know?
Mhm.
And if I know the person who's hiring me isn't going to be there, I might say, well, you know, I'll tell you what, let me come back when there's somebody new, and I'll see if I'm going to get along with him. You know, because I don't want to work for somebody if I'm not going to get along with
No,
them.
I
That's
agree.
the first
I
thing
agree.
I size up.
And I agree with your statement, Peter, in that, you know, that it is important that he does share that information. It's just a question of, I guess, how it is shared, and that's simple, and you know, we talked about it today, and yeah, I feel like you're belaboring the issue. So, if you feel comfortable, move on.
That's fine.
The vacation schedule, at our last meeting or the meeting prior, I don't recall which one, it was asked of Mike to keep us up to date on his vacation schedule, specifically when he takes off 1 or 2 days. We all knew about the Disney vacation. To date, I wasn't made aware of when he was gonna be taking a day off. And I remember suggesting that if you could just, you know, email Tracy, text Tracy, whatever it is, the morning of. Again, in case something slips through the cracks, or if someone
Well,
comes
that's
in, or
fine.
something like that.
I will do that, and I don't plan to take anything this week, and as things come forward, I try and schedule around that. For example, we've got another meeting with the fire department that we scheduled today. That will not be a day, but as my schedule fills up, I'll work around it.
Well, and that's fine, we're just asking for the heads up notice, and if it's the morning of, that's perfectly fine, because that's something that we had,
Was there a specific day
Asked
that
for.
you didn't call and let Tracy know you weren't coming in?
No.
No.
Okay, so then I guess I'm,
during last
because
week, or not, the week before?
No, there wasn't. I guess I'm confused.
Then I didn't receive that information, so I guess then,
But I'm
just to shoot an
confused
email
because
out.
there was an email that he sent to all of us on March 30th, specifically outlining what days he was gonna take off, how he intended to take those days off, and you responded back to that email. As I indicated at Monday's meeting, I have accumulated time and I need to use prior to the end of my contract. I had already scheduled vacation week, April 18 to 21. I would like to take April 13 and 14 to pack and prepare for the trip. I also plan to use one day next week. I am busy on Monday and Wednesday, so I will either take Tuesday or Thursday, depending on what comes up in the meantime. I also plan to take a day during the week of April 25, depending on the scheduling appointments.
right,
This
so
will
I
be
guess
used-
I probably won't take
what
that
I'm,
day.
what I'm looking, I guess what I was looking for is that when it comes down to the week of, yes, it's the broad stroke information is helpful, but when it comes down to the week of, then okay, let's,
I'll certainly let
the
you know.
day of. That's what
Right.
I'm asking.
Okay, right, but I mean, because the way that you sound is he took a day, the way that you wrote that email, he took a day, and he didn't tell anybody. And that isn't the case.
No, I'm saying that the board wasn't aware of it, and we had asked that we be made aware of it.
Let me ask
But
you a
what day were
question.
we not aware of?
As a matter of routine, as the chairman, aren't you informed when Mike is not gonna be here?
No,
You're not, why not?
it's a good question.
But it's a question for you.
I don't check in with him every day. Am I supposed to be checking with him every day?
No, you don't
Seeing if
check
he's
in with
there
him
or
every
not?
day, but I
But-
would assume the chairman would say, listen, you're the manager, we need to, coordinate on things. I need to know when you're not gonna be here, unless it's some emergency that happens, but, I mean, that's, I
Well-
would assume you would have
I'll let you know.
been doing that.
Prior to
Up until, the vote and everything that's happened the past couple of months, I have known, because we have, there has been, Mike has been here, and we know where he's going to be for meetings. Now we're in a different phase, so it's just a matter of,
You will know.
But you
how
just
to do
told me that you weren't routinely.
right,
made
no,
aware.
but he wasn't in the situation he's in now where
How's it
he
different?
is,
it. I didn't take many days off.
thank you. He didn't. Obviously,
why I have
so
so
he
many
has a lot of
now.
vacation to take now,
That's why I
right.
have so many now.
The resumes that we've been receiving. I was in town hall when Mike had called in, was that Friday? And you asked if we had received any, and you requested that Tracy send them to you.
What?
No,
No.
no.
I thought you requested that you see copies of them.
No, absolutely not. I don't wanna see
No.
copies of them. I've never requested them
No.
of anyone.
No, that
I,
wasn't a request.
that's not my,
No.
Okay, all right, then that's my
I have no
mistake.
dog in this fight.
Then that's
This
my
is-
mistake. Okay.
I have some morbid curiosity at the outcome, but
Okay.
I will, but, I really don't wanna be part of the process.
Then that's my mistake, and I apologize for that. And their only other one was, just documents that Tracy should, have, and one example I had is when you had compiled the 4-page spreadsheet of union negotiations for us.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's 4 sheets of
The individual,
notes.
right, yeah,
I'll-
the individual pieces, things like
I'll
that,
send those to her. That's not a problem.
so.
I mean, but you put that through as a major, in the way that that email was crafted, Beth, it came through as a major, issue that we needed to address. I don't see, he provided us with the documentation in executive session. How is that would be the clerk's responsibility to give that to Tracy
because that was something that was provided to us
I'll
during
just email
executive
it,
session.
so she has
Right,
No, but the other piece is that I know
That's
that,
fine that you sent
one
it
of the
to her,
pages,
but-
one of the pages, I believe,
Needed to
you
be-
need to fix,
needed to be
right?
fixed,
I
and
don't-
it was fixed, but.
I don't remember if we've received that to date. That's a
I think
separate,
I gave it to Peter in the negotiations, but that's all.
Okay.
So I'll get that out.
so that's just, it's a matter that I find, that sometimes, Carrie, and I'll use you as an example, both you and Peter tend to take my emails, especially as they're relating to Mike, as if I have a personal agenda. And I don't have a personal agenda. Mike is our town manager. He is our town manager until the end of June. And if you have an issue with the way that my email is written, I clearly stated that it was something that I wanted to have as discussion collectively for us as a group to figure out how to handle, if it isn't even an issue. So that's, I mean,
Well,
if that's,
apparently
if
you-
it's
you felt
not,
it was an
if it's
issue.
not.
You did, because you marked confidential at the top of the email. I mean, I took that as, honestly, when I got that email on Friday, and maybe my position wouldn't have been so, oh my gosh, what's going on? But it was then followed by the next email, oh yeah, and also this issue is part of it too. And then the next email, oh yeah, and by the way, Mike's tried to call me and we're playing phone tag and I'm not gonna talk to him about it.
No, I didn't say I was not gonna talk to him about it. I
Said
said
you
I
weren't
left
gonna,
him.
because you didn't wanna upset him while
I
he was on
wasn't going to give him the
vacation.
specifics of it
Well,
because I
yeah,
don't
so
wanna
it's like-
belabor, I don't wanna make it more difficult for him.
But had you talked to him
Had you exactly?
frankly and
Well, and
openly,
honestly, this
then
would've
all
been
these things
avoided.
would have resolved themselves, as they have here.
So I don't understand what the expectation is then, because if I have a conversation like that with Mike, then the two of you will be all over me in regard to, well, you shouldn't have, you should have talked to the board about this, not you just individually.
I've
No,
never-
no,
I'm
I've never
finding
said
it, I'm
anything like
finding it
that.
difficult how to
I've
navigate
never said
between
anything
doing
like that,
this.
Beth.
My issue that I raised before is that you had indicated to me that you had concerns and issues with Mike, and that you were compiling them. And then, it's like, are you gonna sit down and talk to him about it? And when you never brought it before the board, I assumed that you had sat down and worked it out with Mike. You then, during this whole process with him, you admitted that no, you never sat down with him. To this day, I still am unclear whether you have ever sat down with him and talked to him, because you haven't elaborated to me why you took your position in not renewing his contract. That is my concern. The issues that you raised here, I took it as, oh my gosh, she's bringing this totally before the board because this is an escalated issue.
No, that's what I wanted.
Especially when it comes across
That's what I wanted-
confidential.
That's what I wanted the board to discuss, is this an escalated issue? As Jay said, is it a mountain, is it a molehill? It's from what I said to Mike this afternoon
Then why didn't
is,
you take his phone call on Friday and say, hey, Mike, I got a couple of
I
issues,
did take
don't
his
blow it
phone
out."
call on Friday, and then I
And did you
called him
tell him not
back.
to blow it out of proportion?
I left him a voicemail because we didn't get to connect on Friday. So I left him a voicemail saying, this is what it's about, this is what we're talking about.
Because, frankly, when I came in here this morning, it was like walking into pins and needles in this office. It was
I didn't receive
awful.
that voicemail, but then again, the police chief also says he sent me a voicemail, and I didn't receive that either, so I think I may have a problem with my voicemail.
I wish I had done that, I would have been.
And I looked, and I haven't gotten a voicemail since February 23rd, so I think there's probably an issue with my voicemail. Well, I don't get a lot of voicemails, because I always carry the phone with me.
Right, but I promised
And
you
I
I would
always-
call you back in 15
yeah.
minutes, it was longer than that, and then I got your
Yeah.
voicemail, so I left you a message. So-
I don't get a lot because I always carry the phone with me, but I looked and said, geez, that's a long time to not get a voicemail. And when Scott said, I gave you a voicemail, I said, there's gotta be an issue, and I will contact Verizon to see what the problem was, but I didn't get either yours or his.
As I said to Mike this afternoon, that had any of these instances occurred in the past, then I think that there might be something that we need to do, but it hasn't. So I wanted to make him aware of that. So if I didn't follow the correct procedure in doing that, and including the board in knowing what my concerns were, then I apologize for that, and I apologize for putting you under any more undue stress. You know, we talked about that as well. So it's certainly not, you know, I wanted to make everyone aware that I felt that I was acting in the best interest of the board collectively to talk about it. As if
Okay.
there were other
So it's
issues we had.
10:25.
I know,
We're over your
We are.
policy, so
we are.
Let's move
So
on.
let's adjourn and move into executive session.
to discuss
This firefighter union
firefighter union
updates.
negotiations with no business after.
Is that the only issue? There was an issue in town is it related to the firefighter?
No, but it's just it's just a status update and,
Regarding
I just wanted to let you.
an employee
and
issue?
A former employee issue.
Okay.
Okay, so that's executive session, too.
Yes,
Okay,
all right. Do you have a motion?
yes.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Pittman, aye.
That's okay.
Robertson, aye.
Baghdasarian, aye.
Adjourned.